find the time.
Hey everybody, GameHounds podcast. We are here finally. And yes, Andrew, we absolutely heard about the Ubisoft thing. Yeah, we'll be talking about that. How are you? How was your week? Gamer Edie here with Andrew Smith and Nick DiNicola here at GameHounds. If you're watching on YouTube, please, first off, before we do anything, hit the thumbs up button on the show. It makes a big difference. You have no idea. Also, if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss us any week, because it's going to get, now is the time of the year when things are going to get interesting, and it's already been interesting. So, any pre-show stuff before we start the actual podcast in earnest?
I want to apologize to Corey for being called Andrew. That was a very bad insult by Edie. That was kind of mean.
Oh, did I tell him Andrew?
Yeah, I was confused. You're like, Andrew, we definitely heard about the...
Oh, I'm sorry, Corey, my bad. I'm sorry. I was typing. I had just typed Andrew's name and it was in my head. I'm sorry.
So we are truly sorry. Like, our lawyers will be in touch. Don't worry.
How are you guys?
Good.
No?
Yeah.
Andrew, I have to get you a light. Seriously, that's what your Christmas present is going to be. I started looking it up during the show last week, and I forgot to finish up.
How about you wrap it around a PS5? And that'll be the
yeah. If I had one, I might, but I don't even have one of those myself. So, all right. Shall we just start the show? That way we can launch into everything and not have to repeat ourselves. Yeah, hey, easy sure. Right in the chat room. Yeah. All right, so let's do it.
Technology, and these podcasters are big fat potty mouths. If you're younger than 18 or are easily offended,
I forgot to check levels.
Oops. Now. Oh, and your mom says to take out the trash and do your homework.
All right, mics are hot. Hello and welcome to GameHounds. GameHounds episode 571. We are recording this on Sunday, November 15th, 2020. I'm Edie Sellers, and with me is Andrew Smith and Nick DiNicola and my new Xbox Series X. My PlayStation 5 is not here yet.
When do you think it'll get there? Because you were able to find it like early in the morning on launch day.
On launch day, and I have to sort of thank my my garbage men because I think I've talked about this before, that there's an apartment
with
building.
Those hot PlayStation 5 tips.
They get around. They get around town. They hear the stuff. Nick.
The garbage men know everything.
As they're taking out the garbage, they slip a note under your door. 6 a.m. Walmart. Be there.
No, I had been up until 1 a.m. Trying to get it on the night before, because of course at midnight Eastern time is when a lot of things went up on the 12th for the PlayStation, on launch day for the PlayStation 5. And I had been trying to get it through Walmart and everywhere else and was not able to. And I stayed up till 1 o'clock in the morning because I had seen that Costco, they had actually placed a listing for a bundle with a PlayStation 5 at about 11 o'clock, and I was like, oh, Costco is based in Seattle. I wonder if they're going to be one of the rare ones that are going to go live at midnight, Pacific time, as opposed to midnight Eastern time. And so I just hung out, and it was about 1 o'clock in the morning that I finally gave up. I'm like, okay, it's not going to happen. So my garbage man, I think I've mentioned it before, that the house next door, the building next door to my house is an apartment building, and they've got a courtyard right outside my bedroom window, and my bed is actually aligned with the window at the headboard. So, because it's really the only way the bed will fit in the room. And so the garbage cans are in this courtyard for the apartment building next door. And the garbage men, they don't like to carry out like 5 different garbage cans out to and unload them. So what they do is they take all the garbage from all the cans and put it into one big can, and they are not quiet about it. So at 5 o'clock, 5:30 every Thursday morning, it's boom, 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 ooh, boom, slam the door. It's just loud as hell, and it wakes me up especially in the it's summertime when the windows open, every morning on Thursdays at 5:30 in the morning. Sometimes I sleep through it, sometimes I don't. I did not sleep through it that morning, so I was up at 5:30 in the morning. And I was like, fuck, it's about to be 9 a.m. in East Coast. I'll just stay awake. I'm awake now. I feel fine. So I went out and I checked and nothing was up. And it's like, all right. So I started watching television just because it's like, I don't have to start work for another 3 hours. So, and I get this notification from Wario64 that Costco is up, but they can't see how much it is. And they can't see, any details about it because they don't have a Costco account. And I'm like, oh, I already have that website. It's already sitting there. So I hit reload. Bam. It was there. The Costco bundle. I was able to get it in my card and buy it. And it was all in told $6.99 instead of $4.99 because it comes with an extra controller and a year of PlayStation Plus and a copy of Miles Morales, which I don't care about. But it's a PlayStation. So
dude, Miles Morales looks good.
Honestly, if you play it, you'll probably enjoy it.
I might. But 2 days later, there is no notification on when it's going to be shipped. So I contacted Costco and they were like, yeah, we don't really know when it's going to get shipped. I'm like,
really?
Okay. Do you know when we're going to know when it's going to be shipped? And they're like, yeah, we'll know like around November 23rd.
Did they even have stock when they put it up for sale?
Apparently don't have stock.
They were just like, we're gonna get some stock in the future. In the meantime, how about you pay us now?
How about right? Oh, they absolutely took my money. They absolutely took my money because that was one of the first things I checked to make sure that I actually had.
Oh, really? They charged you because
they charged me. Absolutely, they charged me.
Microsoft and Best Buy didn't charge me for the pre-order until it was ready to ship.
Yep.
Oh, they were definitely
same thing with us too. But Costco absolutely charged me $6.99. So I get to find out on the 23rd if they actually have the amount of stock that they said they were going to have, and if I'm not going to get canceled. So we'll find out. They may have just borrowed $699 from me.
Yeah.
We'll see.
That would suck.
But it's a struggle is real. We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for reminding me, AC Wraith, the Patreon. We do have a Patreon. We do this show every week, and all we ask is $1 a month. That's all we ask. We're not scalpers. We're not greedy. We do not need to make a living at this. It would be nice, but I mean, realistically, are we worth it? We're worth $1. We're worth $1 a month, and we do this show every Sunday, and we provide lots of news and information, and we would love to have you help support the video stream because that's what all that is going for. It is covering the cost of the video stream, which is not inconsequential. It is a subscription service in order for us to stream to you, so we do need to see if we can offset that just because
I should apologize.
Somebody's got to loan Costco money.
I should apologize, Edie. Me and Nick's OnlyFans for GameHounds, it's taking some of the Patreon donations, and
I mean,
it's all right. I understand.
Yeah, what can I say? I can't keep this body contained all the time.
He
You
cannot
gotta-
turn it off.
Yeah. Sometimes I just have to turn it on.
Gross. You.
Yeah.
So Ryan Stevenson says, "That's awesome, Edie. I was never able to get a PlayStation 5. I don't know that I have one either. I may have just, like I said, loaned Costco $700 for a couple of weeks
For an
Interest-free.
indeterminate amount of time. Like, they'll let you know on the 26th. They're not going to say yes. They'll
No.
let you know.
They'll let me know if it's going to ship and when
Hey.
it might be shipping to
Yeah.
me November 20.
Oh, by the
23rd.
way,
So I'm like, oh, so I'll know by Thanksgiving
Yeah.
whether I'll have one by Christmas. And they're like, yeah, pretty much.
well, turns out we actually didn't have any, so you'll just have to wait till we get more. It might
Wait
be until
until we,
February.
right. They might just hold on
Yeah.
to the money and say, we'll just send it to you when we get
Yeah.
one.
Thanks for the $700. We're gonna go invest that now, and
I was just noticing over my shoulder, you can see it right there.
oh, the box, the Series
box,
Xbox.
the Series Xbox is
I do like the Series Xbox. Well, the shape of it is actually very frustratingly square, so I can't fit it under my bed, which is where I was gonna have to fit it. Between the two consoles, like I had to rearrange a bunch of closet space just to fit the fucking boxes.
Oh, we had to go in there like it was almost a near gynecological experience of me going into like deep diving into my cabinet and with like I haven't had a cat for 4 years and all the cat hair because the cat loved to go behind there because it was like this nice warm place. So like all of these like places and like we're like, oh, okay, look, the cat threw up here 5 years ago and I didn't even know it was there because I hadn't dusted. So it's like it was all full of dust. And then of course the last console series, we did not take care of all of the cord hygiene like we should have. We were like, let's plug another HDMI cable in there. You're fine. It's like, I don't really know which HDMI cable goes where. So just,
it's working. Leave it.
Right. Just stick another cable in there. So we were pulling out like Xbox 360 power cords and just it was just a jumble back there. So it's we're going to do this right.
Yeah, this was the moment when you're like, okay, we can't just let things go on as they have been. We need to like pull it all out and start from scratch.
Right. Well, in that compartment, that's exactly what we did. Okay. We pulled it all out and all the old broken machines. Cause of course I had my 360 down there too. So I had to pull out the 360 and the Xbox One and then all of the power cords and then like the Connect cord, the Connect was sitting there, just all this stuff that I was be like, I'm not using this. Just shove it back there. I'm like, I'll take care of this later. Well, later came. And so, yeah, so we were deep diving into the back of my, my media cabinet. So shall we talk about? Oh, thank you, Ryan. Ryan donated $5. Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. This is
carrying this
going.
podcast on his back.
He really is. It does make you have no idea what a difference it makes because, like I said, this service to actually put this video thing up, Goalie got me into it, and it was like, oh,
he got you into it, then he left, and he's
but
like,
yeah, dick. So yeah, so AC Wraith says he's caught the end of a Miles Morales on stream. It says it looks good.
Mm-hmm.
We'll
like I said, yeah, enjoyable.
Yep. So let's talk about the Xbox. I mean, that's kind of the big elephant in the room right now.
You got it. I got it. I can talk about the PlayStation afterwards. But I know you sent a text to me like the other night that was like, "Hey, which of the ones didn't suck, Outer Worlds or Outer Wilds?" And then you're like, "Man, what do I download? I'm so bored with the Xbox. Oh shit, I'm turning into Goalie." And it was like, I felt kind of bad, and so I want to know: are you enjoying the Xbox now? Because it sounded like the first couple nights were rough.
No, not even the first couple nights. It was literally like a couple of hours where it's
okay.
Like, what do I play? Fuck, there's kind of. I mean, okay, I played the Untitled Goose Game, which seems kind of silly to like the first game that you load into an Xbox Series X is Untitled Goose Game.
You want to know the first game I played?
Huh.
I downloaded the 360 SSX game
I saw that too. I almost did it as well.
because it's backwards compatible, and that's one of my favorite games of that entire generation. And I started playing it, and I am now deep into that game and enjoying the hell out of it because it's actually playable on a machine right now for me. So, yeah, it's not unusual to do that. Like with Game Pass, you have this wealth of stuff in front of you, and it's like, well, what catches your fancy?
Right. And inevitably, it's not like the new hotness, and it's not something that's really going to stress this massive processor. You download something that's like, Kevin's looking at me like, okay, impress me. Show me what it looks like. And I'm like, well, I'm playing Untitled Goose Game. He's like, really?
I mean, that's one of
this is how you're going to test it out?
I wonder if that
unfortunate
game
things
gets 60
about
frames.
Xbox is that because they don't have any like big exclusive launch games, because like Halo got delayed. Most of the things I downloaded are indie games and Xbox exclusives from the Xbox One. So like Gears, Quantum Break, Sunset Overdrive, and
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I figured. I downloaded my friend Pedro, which I played for like 30 seconds. I downloaded Untitled Goose Game. I downloaded Spiritfarer, which I actually played a little bit of while I was waiting for Assassin's Creed Valhalla to download. Yes, I bought that.
I've seen you playing that.
Yeah. Okay. So first off, let's talk about the Xbox.
Okay.
That controller is sensitive as fuck. Oh my God. I feel very much like Goalie because as I was playing it, I'm like, this is way too sensitive. I can't control the controller very well. And it's almost so sharp that it's actually not nice to look at.
Really?
It's like, yeah, there's a part of me, it's like, it's too sharp and too sensitive and too responsive.
Too many colors on the screen.
Too many colors. Yeah, that was, and I was like,
There's
oh
not too many,
God,
'cause
I'm
that
become
thing is
Goalie.
pitch black. There's not a single color on that controller other than black.
But the controller itself, as soon as you put it in your hand, you feel that thumbstick is very much loose. It is like actually moving it on your thumb. It is butter, absolute butter.
So what were you saying about the thumbsticks? I was just going to use it for
that
visual.
it is loose and that it feels like butter.
Yeah.
Oh,
Butter.
Yeah. The actual thumbsticks are so velvety smooth just in just in the feel of them. They Nick, stop fondling your thumbstick.
I'm showing it off. It's the shopping channel thing, you know?
Carol Merrill.
Yeah.
Yes. So the thumbstick itself is very, very loose, which is a great feeling because like when you first sit down, you're like, ooh, this feels good. And then you actually start playing with it and it's so loose and so sensitive that you're constantly like trying to shoot in Valhalla, trying to shoot a bow. Holy shit, it is hard because it's like, all right, you aim and then you're like, and you're overshooting constantly because it is so loose because you're so used to a stiffer thumbstick.
I didn't notice that. Like it just felt like a thumbstick, but I do have to say I think the texture along the ridges of it's different than the texture along the ridges of a PlayStation controller. And I like this one better.
I do too.
Because with the PlayStation controller, with the PS4 at least, and it kind of feels the same with the 5. I actually bought like little pads that I could put over the controller that give it a different texture because I didn't like the way it felt because it was too smooth. The Xbox, the Series S controllers have a texture that's rigid enough or ridged enough that it feels like I can push along with my thumbstick and it won't slip. So it actually feels really comfortable to me.
And the PlayStation or Xbox has done something that I prefer. This is a bigger controller. It is a heavy controller. I remember hating the PlayStation controller when I started using it simply because it was so small and I had been so used to the 360 controller. It has kept very much the same form, which is good. It is lighter by a long shot than the 360 controller, than the 360 and the Xbox One controller. It just feels lighter. But most importantly is that they kept the offset of the two thumbsticks,
Mhm.
because that was my biggest problem with the PS4 controller, is that when the thumbsticks are even, and maybe it's because I've been so used to playing with the offset for so long, is that I would frequently be running and I would lose my grip on this, and it's like I'm slowly pushing up, and I would frequently I got very good at doing the thumb switch, like you're playing and then you start sliding up and then you would just hold it with this thumb and reset your thumb, kind of like
Huh.
resetting your, when you're trying to scroll up with a mouse
Yeah, yeah.
and you have to lift it to make
Huh.
it go a little bit further. Yeah, it's very much that situation where I would have to learn I learned how to do the thumb switch in order to keep it there. So yeah, I'm glad to be back with that controller, although that controller is sensitive. I know that you can. Something else that was really weird. Did you notice that when you start up the Xbox Series X, I'm assuming also the S when you get it, that you have to update, obviously you have to update the console, and then it updates the controller.
Yeah. That's not surprising. There's a lot
It's
of
not
technology in
surprising.
there.
I'm not surprising, but it is kind of funny that the controller needs to be updated separately.
The same thing happened with the PlayStation. It's like,
Did
hey,
it?
your console needs to update. Okay, reboot. Hey, your controller needs to update. Okay. We don't have to turn off the console for this one though.
Oh, good to know.
Okay, that's good, I
Hope
guess.
not.
Yeah.
There must have been some firmware change on the controller.
Yeah. And
Some
like these
software
things
change.
are now so fucking advanced now, especially
Right.
the PlayStation 1, that it makes sense that they require their own special software.
Right.
But the one thing that really, really bugs me about the Series X controller that makes me irrationally angry, like really irrationally, is that it takes fucking batteries.
Well,
I
my
hate that it takes
360,
batteries.
361 took batteries as well.
Yes, it did. But the
And
thing
my
is,
my Xbox One, my 360 had a rechargeable, but my
and
Xbox
I
One
have looked this up because Microsoft is like, we researched this when making a controller. I liked that the PS4 didn't have batteries, that it had like a rechargeable thing in it that you could just plug in. Apparently, like the community split between pack and recharge and batteries is like almost 50-50 split. And so Microsoft was like, okay, we'll keep it as batteries, but then we're also gonna, sell you a plug and play kit so that you could put a rechargeable thing in there. And like, I get it. Sure, some freaks of nature out there prefer batteries in it and want to just keep buying batteries and sinking monies into big battery to keep it afloat. But I want something that I can just like plug in and forget and recharge. And the fact that I have to go out and buy an extra thing for the Xbox controller, like I said, makes me irrationally angry. Well, I get it. I can get it intellectually, like that there's a split, but I'm like, you motherfuckers, I'm gonna have to buy another fucking pack. This is bullshit.
You can
Grumble.
You can buy rechargeable batteries, and I prefer it because then you can just take 2 sets of rechargeable batteries, have one plugged in while you're playing, and if that one's about to die, you just pop them out, plug the new ones in, put those batteries on the charger. I would prefer that over having my controller die and then having to plug it in with a cord to keep playing.
But you have to manage the batteries. You have to have a whole separate battery management system in your life, and I don't want that.
Yep. I'm with Andrew. It's not that big a deal. And
I prefer it. Like I would like to have that over just
as someone who is about to throw out a fuck ton of old Xbox 360 controller batteries, it is also way better for the environment because now I am not stuck with all of these batteries that I need to send to hazardous waste disposal. that I cannot use elsewhere. Yes, you will technically probably use more batteries simply because they will be rechargeable batteries, but they're not going to be thrown out at the end of this console's life. In theory, if you are very good with your batteries, you could use those batteries for something else in your house. You don't have to use it for this. It's not, one console or one electronic item rechargeable battery that went at the end of its life. You have to figure out what to do with it and not throw it in the garbage and put it into the environment.
You all
Sorry,
make
Nick.
good cases.
You're wrong on this
you all
one.
make good cases, but I still like fucking batteries. This is fucking bullshit. Batteries, my ass.
I mean, you also think Breath of the Wild was bad, so clearly you're
Yeah,
compromised.
right.
No,
Your,
I know it was bad.
your opinion is suspect, Nick.
I do like AC Wraith in the chat says Nick likes batteries. He just doesn't want to see them. I want it in, I don't want to see the batteries and take part. I don't want to touch the batteries. And yes,
Yep.
I've heard that argument too. That a built-in battery's life is worse, and like over time, when it fails, you have to throw out the controller instead of just the batteries.
Right.
I guess I just haven't ever reached that point with a PlayStation controller that like the built-in battery suddenly stops accepting a charge. Like I have 3 PlayStation 4 controllers, and none of them have like gotten to that point.
Frederick Draxon says, buy the Elite 2 controller. Problem solved, Nick.
Or I could spend less money and just get the fucking plug-and-play kit.
So yeah, the controller is, I mean, it's like
good.
coming home. It's like coming home. It feels right in my hand. And I say this because I was like, oh, I love the PlayStation controller, except for this and except for this and except for this. And now that I'm playing it back again, in fact, I like this controller better than the one. I think it's a lot less bulky. The one controller, when I would put it in my hand, felt weird. As soon as this went into my hand, it felt like coming home. It felt like getting onto a mattress that you like at your parents' house, like your mattress you grew up on, where it's like, oh yeah, I remember this. It feels right. It is milk and cookies all together. So I'm very pleased with the controller. The sensitivity, like I said, I had to really get used to it. I have noticed that the R3 button and the L3 button, and it may be just me, it seems like it is tighter than the PlayStation's buttons, and also I'm playing now Valhalla, which uses those R3 and L3 buttons a lot. And I have been not crazy about those two, but in general, I think it's a good controller. I think it's a way better controller than the One's controller by a mile.
What also surprised me and kind of bugged me, and this is just personal preference, the D-pad, like it's a really good D-pad, but it's super, super clicky. Like that shit clicks, and it is a loud click.
Yeah, when you hit the D-pad, there is no question you have hit the D-pad. It is absolutely. And I've never really been a big fan of these swivel circles because inevitably I will, like be inaccurate, and like instead of hitting up or down, I hit like, northeast, or up or right. You'll hit northeast instead of. But in general, it is, I gotta say, a pretty solid controller that I feel good about using. It just. It's
I really
there.
like the D-pad. Especially I can't talk to the one, so I don't know. But going from 360 to this one, it is that similar kind of swivel thing, but it is much shorter.
Mhm.
So it feels like it's a lot easier to hit up and down because it's very clicky, and because it's not as tall. Like the 360 D-pad felt really tall, so it was almost like a control stick in and of itself, the way it moved. This one feels like the directions are much more distinctive. Like, yes, you can swivel it, like you can roll your finger around, but each direction has like a click associated with it, and so that feels less like a control stick and more like a D-pad. It's
Right.
just an 8-way D-pad instead of a 4-way D-pad.
Mm-hmm. Now, as for the form factor, the actual size of the console itself, it is definitely a stop it, you two around. It's not as big as I thought. Kevin, it would fit into my console, my cabinet, and Kevin's like, "Why don't you just put it in the cabinet where it's supposed to go?" Stop, you two! I will turn this podcast around.
You have to separate us. You don't sit next to each other.
Better?
Little
Stop fucking around.
No.
This is making a terrible podcast, my friends. It's hilarious for the
Which is
video
true.
chat, but it is not very good fun for the podcast itself.
We go back and forth.
The podcast, the actual console itself, which I cannot grab because it would cost, I'd have to like unplug everything, and I guess I could. The actual one itself is Series X itself. It's not as big as everyone made it out to be. Now, I have not gotten my PlayStation 5 yet, which I believe is even bigger.
The fear in Nick's eyes right now.
Oh, it's big.
Is it really?
It fits in my console thing, but even looking at the two of them, it's like, fuck, man, that thing's big. And especially putting it next to the PS4, it's like, Jesus Christ, the PS5 could eat the PS4. Like, those images of like the little fish with the bigger fish behind it and the bigger fish behind it. It's like that, but it's like two fish behind it. And it's like, oh Jesus,
It's the shark.
Yeah, it's like, oh geez, I think it could probably eat the Series X too. The Series X would put up a fight, it would flop around a bit, but the PS5 would ultimately like win. It's too big.
Yeah, the Xbox Series X is not as big as I expected it to be. I was under the impression it was huge, but it's fine. And I kind of like its design in that it is unobtrusive. Mine is not inside my cabinet because I have been told do not impede the top grill, the heat, essentially the chimney that comes out of the top of it, because it gets. I have yet to check to see. I should have done it yesterday to put my.
It
hand
doesn't
over
get
the top
that
of it.
hot. I've tested it. It's
okay.
Fine. There were a lot of videos of like Xboxes overheating. It was actually people just blowing vape smoke into the console and then turning the fan on to have
Xbox
the
has been,
smoke blow up.
You saw that tweet where they're like, we shouldn't need to say this, but do not blow vape smoke into your PlayStation or into your Xbox Series X. Thanks.
I facepalmed when I read that. Like, the company should not have to say that.
Well,
People just doing pranks online and being like, oh, look, it's overheating. It caught fire. It's like, no, that's vape smoke.
Vape smoke. But I like that it's, I have it actually sitting on a bookshelf right next to the television, and it is unobtrusive. It does not feel like something that goes, hey, I'm a console, or that it doesn't fit in with any kind of decor. It just looks like a black box.
Yeah.
And it's cool. I mean, I actually kind of like it.
The aesthetics, like, I'm not like I don't super care about it. A lot of people
aesthetics are understated, and
PS5.
that's how I like it.
I don't mind that at all. It's like, yeah, sure, it looks the way it looks. Like, it's never bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
So, different strokes for different folks. Like, yeah, if you want your media center to continue to be all black, the Series X is that. It is a big black box.
It's a big black box. What do you think about the performance? I
will say, like, as someone who skipped the one series,
right.
the one, it's still taken me a while to get accustomed to this new UI.
Let me give you a fun fact. That UI is so much better than the ones. Holy shit. Oh, the ones UI was impossible to navigate. It was just so cluttered up. Every time I would start it, it would remind me of the street scenes of Blade Runner. Just all this shit bouncing all over the place. Things, Japanese geishas putting things in their mouth. Like it was like just too much. And you could not, when you wanted to go somewhere, you couldn't find it. I have yet to have a problem finding stuff. And although it's still obviously geared toward advertising and not user experience. It's hitting closer to midline between those two worlds than the one UI.
Well, like one of the things that threw me off at first is I was looking for the friends list. And I went to community. I'm like, oh, it must be under community. But there's not. It's like, oh, here's a Call of Duty event, a Fortnite event. Here's some achievements that people on your friends list have gotten. But I'm like, where's the friends list? And it turns out when you hit the middle Xbox button, it brings up like its own separate mini menu. And from there, you can navigate to other menus. Like you can navigate to the clip sharing. You can navigate to Game Pass. You can navigate to previous games you've played. Or you can navigate to your friends list. And like, if you just want a list of your friends to see what they're doing, that is where that list exists. It doesn't exist on its own page in the UI. It exists on this like kind of temporary page that only appears when you hit the home button. Like you have to hit the home button, navigate to friends, and then you can see that whole list of like who's online, who's playing what. Do you want to send them a message and things like that, which is just a different choice than like what it was on the 360 where it had its own list, its own page. And so just learning little things like that is taking some time. But generally, I like the UI. It's very straightforward, especially like browsing Game Pass and downloading a bunch of games and then looking at your game queue to see what is downloading, in what order. You can pause and rearrange it. And just all that usability stuff. It's the learning pains I'm going through are the learning pains of any new UI. It's not like, oh, this is unintuitive and confusing. It's just like, okay, where's all the stuff that I will use? And what's neat is you can kind of rearrange the list of things on the side. So when you boot it boots up to this home screen that says like, here, there's a row that's like the last apps you opened, whether it be media apps or games. And then below that, there's kind of like advertisements. If you hit down, it takes you to this separate page. And you can rearrange these next pages where you can, if you hit down, maybe you want Game Pass first, or maybe you want the store first, or maybe you want the community page first, or things like that. And you can kind of rearrange them according to what you prefer, which is neat. And yeah, it's a very functional, like it's not minimalistic, but it's very unobtrusive. It's like, hey, here's an option that you want. Go do it.
There and the organization is clear. You don't have to go looking for shit. I was able to get into my my settings and be able to adjust my settings just fine. Whereas before it's like, where the fuck do you go for settings? Where's my friends list? Where's my messages? Shit.
So I will say a weird thing happened. So the first time I booted it up, I was talking to a friend and he was going through like all of his TV options that what the Series X offers. And if you go to like settings and the HD calibration, you can see like what specifically your TV supports. And he was saying, oh, mine supports HD 10 and it supports HDR at like these different hertz and frame
it
rates.
automatically detects what you can do, which was
the first time. It's nice. The first time I went there, I was like, oh, it only supports HDR, not HDR 10. And like I was looking at it, my TV didn't support a lot of the HDR options. And I thought, this is kind of weird. I turned it off. The next day I booted up. And all of a sudden those options are checked. I'm like, why? What changed? And then I hit a button on the TV and I realized that the UI on the TV has kind of changed. Just the little subtle things, like the font of like the settings menu kind of changed. And I thought, did my TV update? And was it, I don't know if, I know the TV updated. And I know that update must have unlocked new options on the Series X. And I'm wondering if this is just a coincidental update that the TV just happened to do it. Roku just happened to put out this update this week, or if the TV like read some sort of, oh, you plugged in a device that requires this stuff, so we'll update it. I don't know what's going on, but there was a weird moment where at first at first the Series X said, oh, we see your TV doesn't support all these options. The next day, oh, we see your TV supports all these options.
And it was because the TV updated and it figured out, oh, hey, guess what? It now updates.
Yes.
Mine went directly to 4K, which was great.
And I don't know what triggered what. I don't know if the TV triggered the Series X or the Series X triggered the TV, but
It made your world better.
confused. It did. Like
Don't ask questions.
But I wonder, like, it's just a coincidence? Like, that's a really great coincidence, but
Right.
I need my tinfoil hat is on.
And the boot up. I am like amazed at how fast it boots up.
So, what's cool? How many games have you played? Have you gone back to any games that you've played?
No, I have not.
You should try that, because what I've realized, I've heard people talking about this, but the Series X has a quick resume feature, which means there's a lot of games that when you exit, it saves that state of where you are. And so, like, one of the things I've downloaded and I've been playing a lot of is Gears Tactics.
Mm-hmm.
Gears Tactics and Forza Horizon 4, both of which are actually really great games. Gears Tactics is a fantastic tactics game that's actually almost more RPG than shooter. And Horizon 4 is probably the best arcade racer I have played since Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. Like, the other day I was complaining about there not being a lot of arcade racers. Turns out it's the Forza Horizon series on Xbox. I've just missed out on great arcade racing games for a generation. But because both those games are Microsoft exclusive games, and they're modern games, like this doesn't work with SSX because it's a 360, so it requires emulation. But if I exit Forza, like I hit the home screen and I close the game and I hop into Gears Tactics, it saves exactly where I was in Forza. It saves the state of the game, so that if I leave Gears and I hop back into Forza, it will resume the game as if it had just been paused. And with Gears Tactics, I have hopped back into Tactics, and it's like, oh, we see that you basically turned the console off mid-mission. We recognize that, and we're going to resume it mid-mission.
Oh,
and,
neat!
And it saves the state of the game, even if you turn the console off. Like, I didn't put it into rest mode. I held the button down and said, turn the console off. And it still came back in to that exact save state.
Mm-hmm.
And not every game supports this. You'll know the games that do, because when you boot into them, you'll see a little line in the upper right corner that says quick resume. But yeah, it seems like definitely any Microsoft first party game supports that. I imagine most indie games and third party games that have come out like in the past couple of years will probably support this. It obviously doesn't work with any game that requires an online connection. Like if you try to do it with Division 2 or Destiny, you would likely be disconnected from the server and have to reconnect to the server. But for any sort of single player game, like, or if you're playing on single player mode, like with Forza, it's a really cool feature. Like, I would recommend just go to Goose Game and boot it up again and see, does it boot you to the menu or does it boot you to the exact location that you left off?
I will try that out later.
Because that quick resume feature is really, really impressive and cool.
Let's see. What else was I gonna talk about? There was other things that was in my head. The booting up, the playing of the games. Game Pass.
AC Wraith says that. Yeah, I just want to say about the quick resume. AC Wraith is saying that some players are getting screwed because they're trying to emergency quit the game when something doesn't go their way. But because you can't really emergency quit easily, it's saving that state and not allowing them to like reset.
Oh, that would suck.
Oh, Borderlands would not be nearly as fun if it weren't for Chris,
Fucking Chris with the.
hard restarting his PlayStation, his 360.
I don't want to lose money.
You have $20 million. Why are you worried about dying?
Oh, he said
Oh,
it's
man.
not. He said it's not happening, but he speculates it will happen. Which,
Oh,
like, one of the things in Gears Tactics has an Iron Man mode, which Iron Man mode in a tactics game is specifically like you can't revert to a save. Like things that happen.
happened.
And
There
so
is no going back.
in that game, you can recruit, random gears to your team that are basically cannon fodder. And if one of them dies, I imagine if I lost the good gears that I invested a lot of resources into, and then was like, oh fuck, turn off the Xbox. No, we saved that state. That she's dead.
Yep.
You can't save her.
So yeah, Game Pass. I haven't used it much because I bought Valhalla, but what I did see and what I did use of it was very nice. No complaints here. Pretty much everything that would be a small game or anytime at that moment, like when I first started, like, what do I want to play? I don't know. Let's say it's on Game Pass. Oh shit. Okay, yeah, I could try that. That's pretty good. Yeah, I can play that. Yeah, it's pretty good too. My friend Pedro. Okay, now I know what it is. Yeah,
I have
didn't
filled
think I was
up
gonna like it.
about. Oh, really? I enjoy Pedro.
I know what because that's your kind of game. It is.
I have filled up about 80% of the hard drive by downloading Game Pass games.
80% of hard drive, really?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Well, I think I got Gears Tactics, Gears 4, Gears 5, Forza 4, SSX, Quantum Break, Sunset Overdrive.
Oh, wow.
Like 3 or 4 other indie games that are
We didn't
smaller.
talk about- you're having a problem here. I think we need to have an intervention.
But so
this is what the Game Pass does.
This is what it does. This is what it does. One thing I noticed, and this is not necessarily a complaint about Game Pass itself, but more of a kind of curiosity about how games would develop the past generation. There was one game I was looking forward to downloading. Well, two that I downloaded on PC. Gris, that really beautiful puzzle platformer that we've seen at PAX.
Is that on Game Pass?
Hang on. And Death's Gambit, which is a 2D side-scrolling pixel art Souls game that I've been playing for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Both those games I have downloaded on my PC from Game Pass. I tried to download both of those on the console. They're not there. They're not even on the storefront. I can't even buy them because those games never actually came to the Xbox console. There are only there's a PS4 version, there's a PC version, in some cases there's a Switch version, but they just never actually came to the console. And I think that's just kind of it says a lot about the development of previous generation, where I think a small studio may have decided not to develop a game for the one, because if you have limited resources, you went for the PlayStation and PC and the Switch because those audiences were just larger. So I'm a little disappointed that I can't play those on the console, but I've still got them on PC. But it was just this moment of like, where is Death's Gambit? Like, what the fuck is this game? And I'm looking at the storefront, like, I can't even buy it? What the hell is going on here? So, yeah. But other than that, yeah, tons of shit on Game Pass, and I'm
totally worth it. And looking at that,
it.
as I'm going into it and thinking, all Bethesda games are going to come here.
Yes, some of them even are. I know Doom Eternal is on there
right
now.
I was almost tempted to go into Mass Effect just to see what it looks like on a One or on the Series X. Just because, I want to see what it looks. But then there's a part of me, it's like, I don't want to wreck it. It's such a good memory.
I think Mass Effect holds up. Mass Effect will probably hold up.
Well, maybe not the graphics, but
no, I think the graphics will hold up.
I played Mass Effect 3 recently on the PC because my friend threw it at me to play the multiplayer. Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty much. It looks good. I mean, the PC graphics think I'm going to be much different than the.
It's true.
Yeah,
I forget that a lot of these, that the graphics are going to hold up because of the PCs.
like I said, I downloaded SSX for the 360,
Mhm.
and that game it looks fine. Like I look at the models and I can recognize, oh, these are models from a couple generations ago, but they don't look bad.
Okay.
Like there's nothing about them that looks blocky. It's just, oh, okay. There's not like I can't see the pores on their skin, but it's
Well,
like whatever.
I think that's because like the overall models had like graphic fidelity wise, we're kind of falling off. Like we're not going to ever get to the point where we're playing like human 3D world graphics, like our world graphics. I don't think that'll happen. But they were good last generation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And what we get now is just more details. Like the
Yeah.
clothings are going to have more things on them, things
Right.
about
And
characters.
micro expressions and things like that.
Yeah. So it's going to be less about a graphical increase and just more about quality
Mhm.
of those models.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing about Mass Effect was it looked fine, but the characters did look simple.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah. Well, by today's standards, they look simple.
Right.
yeah.
Let's I guess should we want to talk about PlayStation 5 first before we go into Assassin's Creed Valhalla, or
Sure.
Alright.
So yeah, I got the PlayStation 5. It's a big thing. The UI is just different enough that it kind of requires some relearning, because I haven't used the UI a lot because I've only played one game on the PlayStation 5. I kind of booted it up, transferred all the games over, and then played this one game, and then went back to the Series X because I downloaded all those fucking Game Pass games, and so I'm like, I want to play these. But the one thing I did play on PlayStation 5 is Astro's Playroom. And
I don't
first
know.
of all,
I have a bad memory of going into Astro's Playroom when I got the PlayStation 4 and it just being
so I want this team to make a full-on Astro platformer because this game, it exists, has a tech demo for the DualSense controller. That's why it exists. But it's also just a really good platforming game. Like the way that they build levels and the way they build collectibles into levels, it's just really, really good. Like exploring these worlds feels fun. Like I want to explore every corner. And I want to see this team make a larger game because I think they could do a damn good job of it. But the core of the game is to show off the haptic feedback of the DualSense controller. And in that regard, again, it's really, really fucking good because it's not a difficult game. And what makes it so compelling is that it just keeps putting you into situations that, give you new feelings in the controller, that do new things. And it's also just a really fun and surprisingly wholesome celebration of PlayStation. Because as you go through these worlds, you see the Astro robots hanging out and playing all over these worlds. And every now and then you'll see like them playing out this Easter egg. And you always know when it's an Easter egg because there will be a little robot with a video camera recording them. And so sometimes you come across like a robot on a dock videotaping these other robots in a boat, and one of them has a beard and one of them's small, and you're like, oh, that's God of War because they're in a boat. It's Kratos and his son. Another time, you'll see a robot shooting ping pong balls up at another robot and just juggling them in the air, and you're like, oh, it's Devil May Cry. And so you'll go through the game and just find these little Easter egg references to other franchises. And that in and of itself becomes part of a game where you see a guy like skating back and forth on an electric line. What game is that? You see like people fighting over in a corner. What is that? You see someone with a sword. And just trying to interpret, these Easter eggs becomes a fun game in and of itself. Outside of the actual platforming and exploring and jumping. And as you go around, you'll find artifacts that are really just collectibles that are impressively rendered 3D models of PlayStation hardware. Like, oh, you found the PlayStation 1, you found the PlayStation 2, you found the Vita, you found like the Vita camera. And those are fun because they seem to really dig deep on what hardware they present, because one of the things I got as a collectible is the PSP GPS tracker, which I assume was probably just released in Japan, but it's it's like I said, it's a celebration of all things PlayStation, that you really just see all of the hardware they've put out. And it's a very fun, wholesome game, and it's hard not to come away from it just kind of feeling happy. The tech side of it is really, really impressive, and I think personally, I think I like the form factor of the Series X controller just a little bit more than the PlayStation, but the DualSense controller is like the most impressive thing from this next generation that I have seen so far. Like, it actually feels like a genuine step forward in terms of hardware technology. So what makes the haptic feedback really interesting is that it's not just in the controller itself. It's not just a rumble. It's not just like the thing shakes. It gives you really, really pinpoint precision rumbles, so that at a certain point in Astros, it started to rain. And I could feel the drops in the controller because they were very like specific, like I said, pinpoint rumbles throughout the controller in random locations that felt like drops of rain hitting. So like I could feel it. Oh, there's something in the trigger on my finger. There's something on my palm close to my thumb. There's something to the center of my palm. Like I could feel these very distinct rumbles throughout my hand and throughout the controller. That's not just the whole thing is shaking. It's no, these very specific points are shaking. And then at another point, I got into like a sandstorm, and that was interesting because you have the whole controller rumbling gently to simulate the wind, and then again, little pinpricks throughout the controller to represent grains of sand hitting you. And it's filled with little things like that that really show off just how precise the rumble can be throughout the controller, that it's no longer just shaking. It's we're going to shake this specific location on the controller in this specific way to simulate a very specific sense of texture. Like there's one part where you kind of turn into a ball and you're rolling around, and rolling on grass feels different than rolling on sand. Like the controller vibrates in a way that is more fine and grainy on the sand than it is on the grass, where it feels kind of thicker and just kind of thicker, like a harder texture. And again, Astro, whenever he walks on a hard surface, there's like a tap, 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 tap. And you feel that tap throughout the controller. And it kind of feels like, a robot walking on metal. It's really impressive. And so on top of that, you have the triggers. And one of the big things about the trigger is they give resistance, so that when you normally you pull the trigger, you pull it all the way down. In this, what you do in this game is you realize there are some moments where you'll pull the trigger down and the trigger will fight back, and it will give you resistance, and like you have to pull harder. So there's one time when you get into a frog suit, and the frog suit's like a spring, and so you have to hold down the trigger to like wind the spring, and then you leap. And so that's what a lot of the platforming is in this section, is you winding the spring and leaping, winding the spring and leaping. Pulling that trigger, like you have to really push down, and the tension gets harder and harder the more you go, like it feels like you're pushing a spring down harder and harder. And then you let go and it all springs up. There's one location where you get into a robot. It's not a slot machine, but it's like a gotcha machine. You know those little quarter machines at toy stores?
Right.
As you go through the game, you collect coins, and you can spend those coins on this quarter machine. So the way it works is it's this robot where you have to pull a lever to get one of those prizes, and then you get it in your hand and you have to crush it to get the prize. When you're pulling the lever, you'll pull the trigger, and it will stop. So, you pull the trigger like you were shooting, but when you just kind of push, you hit this resistance, and it's a very strong resistance that actually stops your hand after like a couple millimeters. What the game wants you to do is to push through that resistance and kind of snap past it. So it feels like, you have this thing blocking you and you want to go and then push past it. And then that's you basically mimicking this feeling of pulling this slot machine lever. And then when you have it in your hand, you have to pull the trigger a little bit and your hand starts to tense and you feel a resistance in the trigger. And the harder you push, the more you squeeze until finally that trigger like snaps clear and you pull it the rest of the way and the hand crushes the little ball and you get the prize inside. It's just a really, really impressive display of the resistance that these triggers can put on. And one of the first things I did on the PlayStation playing Need for Speed Hot Pursuit on the PS Pro was a little frustrating because every time a level loaded, the PlayStation Pro revved up like a jet engine. And it did this every single time a level loaded, to the point that it was actually frustrating and annoying, that it would just be this goddamn noisy every time I'm trying to play. And it actually got to a point where I thought, fuck it, I'm not going to play this game for a couple days because I want to play it on the PS5. Thankfully, the PS5 whispers silent throughout all that loading. So that's
That was
good.
a point. They really wanted to do that.
Yes, and that's good. But also, what I realized playing that game is, the triggers, because that game is a remake of a 360 game and it came out on the PS4, there is no adaptive trigger technology in that game. So the triggers work just as normal. If I had just started playing Playroom absent anything else, I would assume that these triggers give that resistance naturally, that they're just designed to do that all the time. But because I played Hot Pursuit first, I had that baseline of, no, these triggers actually work and are springy, just like the Series X's are, just like the PS4s are. But then at any random point that a developer decides, or at any design point, it can offer a really impressive amount of resistance at any point along that depression that is a really cool, not just a technological marvel, but like a cool immersive thing in the game. Like it actually feels like you're participating in that game action in a slightly more visceral way than you were before. And yeah, AC rates. Sony has true force feedback. This is the haptic feedback that I think people have been wanting since, ever since when Nintendo was talking about HD Rumble. This definitely feels like that. Like, for lack of a better buzzword, HD Rumble is a good way to put it, because you can really feel a precision level of rumble that not just offers like more variety of rumbles, but actually offers a weird texture of material. Like it rumbles in a way that, oh, this feels smooth, this feels rough, this feels grainy. It's not just this rumbles hard and this rumbles soft. It actually offers a texture of material.
Right. Yeah. And
way.
he even points out that that it was that was experience was something that Microsoft had with their Sidewinder flight stick in the 90s, but gave up on. Hey, I remember the last time I was in Kentia Hall, there was actually a controller that looked like it was a pyramid with a handle in the center of it. And you controlled it by doing that. And it was the same thing where when you were on ice, it felt like you were moving on ice and it was a feedback, but it was this gigantic, almost, like I said, it was a pyramid with arms going into it and suspending this controller in the center. And you would move it in the middle of this architecture of like a skeletal architecture of a pyramid. And I have the t-shirt for them still.
Yeah,
it's a great t-shirt. And yeah, that technology has been around for 20 years, but now they're actually getting it into controller.
Yeah,
Kinda cool.
can you shrink it enough to get into a controller
Right, and
as
it was
opposed
really
to a
hard to
giant
explain to people that
Illuminati pyramid?
when you were driving through sand, it felt like sand, and when you were driving on ice, it felt like ice, and that was the best way that you could describe it. It felt like that. It was absolutely a visceral feel that you had, like, there was no question. It felt
Mhm.
ice felt like ice. It was slippery. It just moved
Yeah.
and it just felt slippery. Not easy, just like something was sliding. It was just a very cool thing. So yeah, there's a link to buying a Microsoft Sidewinder Force Feedback 2 joystick. Yeah. So, well, it's nice to know that that's there. Now, performance. You have played both.
Yes. I've spent more time with the Series X than the PlayStation 5 because I just played Astro on PlayStation 5. And I haven't really messed around with the other features of the PlayStation 5. So I haven't done a lot of the, what do they call it? The activity cards, where you bring up the menu and, it's going to show you a little help video of how to get this trophy and things like that. But I do want to go through Astro and collect all the collectibles and get all the trophies because, again, one of the things that's charming about that game is you're rewarded with a trophy for just doing a bunch of dumb stuff. So, like, at one point, I got a bow and arrow, and there were a bunch of rabbits around the level. So I'm like, I'm going to shoot these fucking rabbits. And sure enough, when you shoot all the rabbits, you get a trophy. It's like, oh, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. And so you're rewarded from just experimenting and messing with the level in a lot of these ways. And I think that would be a good way to show off these activity cards, because if they'll show you how to get some of these trophies, it seems like that's a natural thing. So I'll do that more on later. But I was telling Andrew earlier, on the PlayStation 4 with Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, that fucking console revs like a jet engine every single time the level loads, to the point that it actually annoyed me enough. I stopped playing the game and thought, I'm only going to play this on PlayStation 5, where I hope it will be quieter. Thankfully, everything transfers over just fine, and that game is whisper silent when it loads into a level. The PlayStation 5 is generally way more powerful, to the point that it does not rev like a jet engine at any point that I have heard. So, yay for technology. The performance is really good in that regard.
All right, so I guess we'll just know about this, I guess, in coming weeks more as we get farther into the nitty-gritty of stuff.
Mhm.
I guess moving on to games that we have played. I mean, we're already an hour into this show, and we've only
Yeah.
covered. But there was a lot to talk about. I mean,
Well, yeah, it's new
consoles
console.
only come out like once every 6 or 7
It's
years.
the new console special.
It's
we
the
have
new
to talk
console
about
special,
that.
right?
Yeah.
So Valhalla, I played
Yeah,
it.
I want to know about Valhalla.
Valhalla. I'm liking it. I mean, it took a little. It's hard because I was already kind of struggling with this new controller, and it was super sensitive, and it was like, too many colors, and it's different. But after spending pretty much all day playing it until 3:00 in the morning yesterday, it feels like, it does not feel like it feels like a good game. It doesn't feel like an Assassin's Creed game yet. I
What was the
notoriously
last?
slow play this.
What was the last Assassin's Creed game you played before this?
Origins.
Okay, you did play Origins. Okay.
That's the one in Egypt, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I played Origins.
So you've played part of this new generation of Assassin's Creed
Yes,
games.
absolutely. And previous to that was Black Flag. So it's parts of it you go, oh yeah, this is an Assassin's Creed game. But in a lot of ways, it does not feel Assassin's Creedy. I am not out of the first area. I am still in Norway. I think it's Norway. But I'm still in Norway. I have not left. It sets up an early nemesis challenge, so to speak, of the guy that killed your father. And I have yet to move on. So I'm at only episode 2 or chapter 2. And
Okay,
chapter 3 is when you actually go after the nemesis. I know that we still have to go to England and all those other things, but I kind of I like to slow play Assassin's Creed games.
I've
I like to
heard.
clear shit out and then
Oh,
move
yeah,
on.
I get that. I've heard that it has one of the latest title cards of any game. I've heard people getting the title card to appear from anywhere from 8 to 11 hours in.
I have yet to receive the title card.
So you've
That's
you've yet to start. You're in the prologue then.
Oh my god. Am
I've heard the game is really big. Well,
I
prologue in
really? I guess yeah. I guess I have not had
if
a
you
title
you
card
haven't seen a
yet.
title card.
I don't recall seeing it, so maybe I'm not even yet to it. She just got the. I mean, I was playing along with the game, and then these guys show up, and it's like, oh yeah, this is an Assassin's Creed game, and they give her the wrist blade, and it was like, oh yeah, that's right. We have been playing with that.
All right, this is technically one of those games,
It's
right?
technically one of those games. There's a couple things that in that early stage that harken back to it, like when it takes a while for it to finally click, but when you jump in your boat, your long ship, and you head out somewhere, now you have a choice of the songs, which is one of the things I loved about Black Flag. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not crazy about this music. Black Flag's songs I could listen to all day long, just sailing the seas.
Black Flag
The
was
long
ridiculously
ships.
good.
Not so much.
The shanties,
They're not. Yeah, the sea shanties are way more
Viking
complex.
shanties on as good as pirate shanties.
Pirate shanties are one very short, like musical phrase done over and over and over and over and over again. Dang da dang dang, dang da dang dang. Dang, da, dang, dang. It's all this. It's like, after about 12 dang, da, dang, dangs, you're out. On the plus side is something that they do have is you can switch from music to stories. And they will tell stories of either Norse
cool.
stories or just like, like I don't want to say Aesop's fables because they don't have a moral at the end of it, but it's, stories that people tell each other. May or may not be based on the gods, may or just be based on old Norse, folk tales. But yeah, so you don't have to listen to dang dang dang. But accents are not good, to say the least. But in general, I am very much enjoying it and slow playing the shit out of it. They have a dice game in it called Orlog that is really complex, but interesting. I spent like an hour last night playing Orlog at the end of my game because it was pretty fun, and figuring out how to play it well is, you can see it's a lot like poker.
Like
It's not
it kind of
long
like
to figure out, but
Liar's Dice from Red Dead?
it's way more complex. It's got 3
Okay.
stages, and it's a bit. God, what would I say? It's not like Liar's Dice because it's not numbered dice. The dice have symbols, and symbols can attack the other player or block attacks or get God's favors. And there's 3 stages where you roll.
It sounds like a fucking Magic card game, but with dice.
Yes. Yes, it would be a lot like a Magic card game with dice. And dice and stones and God's favors. And I've had some really good matches where there was like, oh, I got you. We were down like 1 stone to 1 stone left. Oh, am I going to be able to do it?
You're playing Magic, Edie. We need to get you into actual Magic some point.
No, not going to happen. No. Not getting into Magic.
Why? What's wrong with Magic?
Nope.
There's so many ways you can play that game. Why not?
No.
I'm with Edie. I don't. That's way It's way too much of a buy-in.
No, like you can just play Arena, Magic the Gathering Arena, which is the online version that you play from a computer. It's free to play,
No,
and they give you a bunch of cards.
no. I am not going to be that person.
Honestly, I'm just not a big fan of the card games.
I'm not a big fan of the card games either, but this is a pretty nice, like you go in, you may play a quick match, but then there's also poetry competitions, which is really kind of cool because the Norse were very much into poetry. In fact, that's pretty much how we know about anything that has to do with Norse history at all. Is because of the Poetic Edda, which is a compilation of poems made by a guy named Snorri Snorri, that wrote them in the 1200s. The Poetic Edda, which is just a series of poems, but they don't hold to the Norse poetry convention. Their poetry is very different than ours. They don't rhyme like a assonance rhyme, meaning they don't rhyme with vowels. They rhyme with consonants, which they rhyme with consonants at the beginning like 3 times. It's very strict rules on what their poetry is. But they don't hold to that because obviously it's nothing like what we think of as poetry. So they just add, English standard poetry into it. And it's really kind of cool. There's drinking games. First thing I did was a drinking game. Drinking games are hard. They're very difficult. Because it's a matter not only of drinking quickly, but also balancing once you start getting drunk while you're drinking.
That sounds like fun.
It is.
So 2 things from the chat.
Don't fuck
Abacab.
with bears. Don't fuck with the bears.
I felt like that was true in
Red Dead
Origins 2.
Redemption. Yeah.
No, Origins. I remember fucking pissing off a hippo in Origins.
Oh
and
yeah.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, the hippos you do not want to mess with. Yeah, bears are no joke. There's never just one, and you don't find that out until it's like, oh, there's a bear by itself. Yeah, that's the other thing is that you're in the snow. Everything's white, so you're like, oh, there's a bear. Let's hit it. And it's like, oh, and there was another bear you didn't see.
I imagine that scene in Jurassic Park where the raptor's right next to him. Clever girl. But in the chat, Abacab72 tells us to stay the fuck away from magic. It took them a long time to get away. Stay the fuck away from magic. And Coy Wallace has asked about weather and fires. What's the weather like? How's the fire technology? Are fires cool?
I have many by fires. You can catch yourself on fire. Done it a couple of times.
Okay.
The weather, I really haven't had much weather other than snow at this point. It's early days. So the weather hasn't really had a moment for me. Fire, the only thing I could say about fire right now is that it's in the game. I actually came across a challenge. It was a puzzle, and I couldn't get to a treasure chest. And I was trying to figure out how to do it, and I kind of gave up. And then I kept wandering and found this reindeer, this giant reindeer. I'm like, ooh, I need reindeer horns, but it was a legendary reindeer who fucked me up. Fucked me up. I should have known when I was shooting it with an arrow, and it's like, why aren't these arrows registering? Well, I guess I'll hold down and hit it with my axe. It's a bad idea. So then I ended up restarting, and I was back at that same hut with the puzzle, and I'm like, I need to think you have to be able to get it. I don't think that they would throw something into this area of something that you needed to get to a certain point or needed an extra skill in order to do it. So I went back in the hut, found a note that said something about fire. And it was like, oh, hey, there's a fire there. I'm like, but how do I get the fire from here to the door in the back where the treasure is that I can't get through? And I was like, I've got my bow and arrow. Lowered my arrow into the fire, and now I have a flame arrow. So you can
Oh, that's
actually
cool.
create your own flame arrows by just taking your arrow, sticking it in the fire. The old-fashioned way, the real OG way. You light your arrow on fire in order to make a flaming arrow, which is kind of cool.
That is awesome. I did see a TikTok tidbit about the Rudolph fight. This guy jumped in and he's like, I'm just going to get some meat. And then the guy ends up getting punted into a wall hard.
Yes, that thing, if you are not careful, if you all right, I'm going to get out of the way of its antlers and I am going to go behind it and hit it a few times, it kicks you and it kicks you. If you get hooked by the horn, it throws you up in the air and you go flying. If you're behind it, it kicks you and it will punch you all the way into a wall. I finally did beat it. It took me 3 times and I had to carry 2 axes and it was a long slog. I had to pretty much wear that thing down so it was so tired it couldn't turn around and get back at me. Even then it would get its stamina back and then come after me. But only because I could get 2 shots into it before dodging instead of 1 shot. And finally, Jesus, that thing, I was not messing around. And wild boars are also something to keep it's one of those moments of it's like you're just wandering along and all of a sudden you hear and you're like, what's that? And you turn around, it's like, oh shit.
Does it strike the same level of fear that the cougars did in Red Dead?
No.
Okay.
No.
It's not that you're walking excuse me. Where you're walking along and just hear that from the grass and you're like, I'm gonna die.
No, it's not as bad.
You hear that sound, you don't know where it's gonna come from.
That sound, you're already gone.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, no, it's not that bad.
I guess in the chat, Abacab is Eric Cotton.
Yeah, it is Eric Cotton.
Okay, I didn't know.
Yes, Abacab. You want to know why Genesis's Abacab album was named Abacab? It's the first 6 notes of the first song. A-B-A-C-A-B.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
So, okay, yeah, this game sounds cool.
Oh, it's going to be.
Between
we've already got a name for the song now. It's called Dang Da Dang Dang.
Dang Da Dang Dang.
Dang Da Dang Dang. Dang Da Dang Dang.
This is
That's my imitation of
that really does actually
medieval
sound like
Norse music right there.
That does sound like the Jurassic Park theme. It does.
No, I guess it would, but it's not.
Dang da dang
Dang
dang.
dang. So yeah. So Assassin's Creed Valhalla, so far so good. I am liking it an awful lot. It does very much feel like a it feels like a game. It doesn't feel like an Assassin's Creed game, yet, except for now I can do executions, which are awesome. And not crazy about if you choose a woman. She is essentially the manliest woman you could ever imagine. I'm really tired of the trope that if a woman is a warrior, she has to be pretty much just a man without a penis. And that's not necessarily true. But, it's Ubisoft. They're making steps one tiny step at a time. Eventually, a woman who is not just a, man with tits.
I've heard that in the last game, Odyssey, the woman character Cassandra was by far the better choice. I've heard with Valhalla, most people say that the guy's the better character.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played the guy, but the girl is very much, Do
you think they just made the story, made the character, and we should let you choose to be a girl? And they changed nothing about the character. They're
from what I understand is that it's not a situation where like you choose your gender in the beginning, you can swap the gender at any time during the game. And like
can
they
swap
pointed out
gender
in the game by saying like, we don't know, there are 2 data streams, whatever. So it's like historically they don't know whether this character was male or female, so that you can basically choose to play as either in the game and swap between those 2 genders at any point in the game, and the story will stay the same.
You can.
So I imagine that's why the characterizations are more homogenous, unlike
Right.
Odyssey, which did have 2 distinct different characters, as Cassandra and Axios.
Axios, right.
I'm of the mind that if you're going to make a male and female character, they should be different. If you're playing a character-driven game like Assassin's Creed, that you can't really make that a generic character. Like
I'd say that I want to
depends on
see
where you're placing it. If you
And
are placing it in a society or in a culture where there were distinct differences between an experience of a man or a woman, yes, absolutely. When you're playing Vikings, first off, we know very, very little, and only in the last like 10 years has it become accepted that shield maidens were a real thing. Like literally they found warriors, they found like the biggest warrior find of a burial site for almost 100 years they assumed was a male, and only in the last 10 years has somebody run DNA on it and went, oh, it's a female. And
yeah,
so it's not like it was a new thing to recognize that Norse culture was very much, there was manliness and men didn't do certain things and women didn't do other things. And it was, you could be executed for being a woman that wasn't womanly and a man that wasn't manly. But at least when it came to warriors, we know very little about the experience of shield maidens versus male Vikingers. They were all Vikingers. So they're making a lot of assumptions that the experience would be the same, because now they're starting to realize when it came to these Viking raiders, which is being redundant because that's what Viking means, that their experiences were probably very similar. That they, once you declared yourself as a Vikinger, you were considered, male.
yeah.
I'm also curious to see where it goes, because like I said, from what I've heard in podcasts, the game makes a specific point of being like, there are 2 data streams, we don't know which is which. So I wonder if that's going to turn out to be part of the story. Like I wonder what they're going to do with it, if anything.
I do too. Or if if they do anything with it.
I'm not a fan of palette swaps like that. Like in a game like Cyberpunk, Mass Effect, where you make your own character, your own story, like you can make a generic create a character and that's fine. But I'm not sure if there's much RPG. Like, can you choose dialogue options in Valhalla at all? Like, you can? Okay, that makes it a little better. But
you can make dialogue decisions. There haven't been a lot, but whenever you're having conversations with people, there are always dialogue decisions.
Okay, I'm just not a fan of palette swaps, like generic palette swaps for characters. I'd prefer them to actually be characters.
Right, I agree. So, Vikings.
Cool.
And the problem is, as if you're interested in Viking mythology and you're expecting this to hold to things that don't. Do not watch that YouTube series from that Norse specialist from University of Colorado, because it will only make you realize how much they're getting wrong. Corey Wallace asked, did they change the combat system as well? I don't remember the R1 button being attack in the last few games. No, the R, yes, actually you are absolutely right. R1 on it is attack. R1 is light attack, R2 is heavy attack.
I thought that's what it was in Origins too.
Maybe. It's been a long time. I think I played Origins,
I'm pretty sure
PlayStation. So
yeah, I played it a while. Well, I just say that because I know that's what it is in Dark Souls, and I
Mhm.
thought that Origins felt a lot like Dark Souls.
Right.
And I think it's like R1 light, R2 heavy.
So yeah, and the only thing I played of any amount was Spiritfarer, which great game. Really good game.
Okay.
There was one more game you played.
My friend, Goose Game and My Friend Pedro.
One more.
Goose Game, My Friend Pedro, Spiritfarer.
Among Us.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we played Among Us. Yeah, Among Us was what I expected.
Among Us, it's really fun, especially with a group of people. With that group too, it's really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys got to meet a lot of my friends from across the internet.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
hope you enjoyed them.
Yes, I did.
It's-
They were fun. But I got in there and it's like as soon as I came in the first time, I was the imposter. I'm like, "No."
And then you still won because the other person.
The other guy was good. He was good, and I was just wandering around going, I don't know how to do anything. And it's like he complained. It's like, I carried you. It's like, I know.
Yeah.
And I called it too. I was like, it's probably Edie and them. I got murdered the next round, and then you guys just won.
And then it was fun. The next round, I was the imposter, and I think Edie was the first person I killed.
Yeah, you were.
'Cause
I was.
You were just an easy target. I'm
Was,
sorry.
'cause I didn't know how to play.
See, I try to be nice. Like when I was first playing before you got there, Edie, we had somebody new, and I jumped out of a vent next to them, not thinking right away because I was going to murder them. I'm like, oh, I can't do that. So I jumped back into the vent. They had seen me, of course. They ended up killing someone before like we got a vote. But they're like, yeah, I saw them jump out of vent, and I was just like, yeah, yeah, I did. I couldn't kill
Don't
you.
be nice. Among Us is not the place to be nice.
Like any of those deception games, it's interesting over time, like getting to know the people well enough to know how to manipulate them. And I can just say, with this group, I feel like one of the best things to do is like be quiet.
Yeah.
Because the moment you start throwing accusations, people get suspicious. But like one of the times I was the imposter and I killed the guy and we went into the meeting and I just didn't say anything, let other people talk and
That's
discuss
exactly what I was doing.
and eventually they were like, yeah, we don't know what's going on. And so it's like, yeah, you don't, do you? All right, let's go.
Listen, the group we played with in particular were really bad about like casting blame on each other. Like they would tear each other apart if left in a room together alone. Like no one had evidence, and it was just you acting like spooky. And we vented so many like crew members because of that.
Yeah.
That's
And
why I
that
didn't
last-
want to say anything. I just was like, I'm
Yeah,
not
and it's
gonna
like
say
I'm just not going to
anything.
say anything. No, just not going to say anything.
Nope.
And it's interesting, that dynamic of like, okay, is this a group that I should be quiet with, or is this a group where I should go out aggressive and be
Yeah.
like, it's fucking red. I know it's red.
And I've learned an important by watching streams to get better at this. I have learned an important new phrase: marinating.
Oh,
Yeah.
Marinating someone. It's a
that
great
is
phrase.
that is where the imposter will follow someone along, waiting for the
Not
chance to
kill
kill them, right?
No, you follow
No.
them along and you don't kill them. So when they go into a meeting, they can go, I know it's not
I
Bob.
was
Because
with
Bob had every opportunity to kill me and didn't. That's called marinating somebody, getting them
Gotcha.
so that they absolutely sure you're not the imposter, and then of course killing
Funny anecdote.
everybody else and having that one person go, no, it's not, it is not Nick. Nick had every opportunity to kill me and never killed me. So I know it's not Nick.
Yeah.
Nick, look at his face. Look at this
It's not
face.
me.
Look at this face right now. Look at that face. Oh my God. Oop, not that face. That face right there. That's the face of somebody who is going to marinate me the next time I play.
Maybe. It just looks suspicious. I would vote him out immediately.
I want to vote him out now, and I'm not even playing it right now. I want to vote him out of the podcast.
Funny anecdote for our last game.
Yeah.
We were playing, it came down to 1 killer and 2 crewmates left, and or was it no? Oh yeah, okay. And I had a friend who hadn't talked the entire time. They only messaged in game, and there was 3 people. My bad. One person died, and that person reported the body. They hopped into chat for the first time after playing for 2 hours, and like, it is this person. I am jumping into chat and using my voice to say that is this person, hands down. No, like, if ands or buts. And then they got voted out and we lost.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
It was her because she was the one. Oh, it is. Yeah, you will learn how devious all of your friends are. That's
no, she got voted out for trying to call out the person.
That's right. That's right. She
Yeah.
did. She got voted out for trying to call out that person because it was that person, and she would absolutely said, "Oh, that's right. I remember that."
And
I remember that one because that before then I was like, oh, it was I forget whose name it was, but it's like, I know it's X. It's her. We should vote her out. Everyone vote her out. It's her. We should do it. She wasn't
No.
voted out. And I was like, oh, fuck.
And you want to know what I look like as Santa Claus? Check this out. Look out what's going on with the
yeah,
sunlight on my chin.
Nice beard.
Yeah, thank you.
But yes,
There
Among
we go.
Us,
There's
fun,
my
especially
white beard.
if you have a group of friends, it's a lot of fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yes.
I'll talk more about the games I played real quick because I think
Very quick. Because we're
I think
already
there
an hour
there
35 in.
praising. With Gears Tactics, I just want to praise one of the things about tactics games, at least with like XCOM, is it can take a while before your characters start to feel real distinct. Like it takes a couple missions before they level up enough that you can get them down certain skill trees that they start to feel like unique characters, not in personality, but like in gameplay, that they are doing something unique that other characters can't. With Gears, from the very beginning, like after the tutorial mission, one of my guys leveled up and the abilities that I was able to give him felt very unique and special. And it's when I said earlier that this game feels more RPG than like tactics, and like those things go together, but with the focus on the abilities that you give your guys, it really feels RPG-esque in the level of like fine grain job classing that you're doing. Well, okay, this guy has a bayonet and I'm going to focus on giving him abilities that support that bayonet. So when he charges a guy and bayonets them, he gets an extra turn, which allows him to do other stuff, which allows him to do other stuff. Or if he bayonets a guy, he gets extra health and other stuff. And so you can class your guys in a way that, oh, this guy is going to charge in and bayonet some fuckers all the time. This guy is going to like charge in and use a shotgun. Or this person is going to focus on cloaking and being able to do a lot of damage after cloaking and all that. And it's just a really cool system that it's not just, oh, Gears and how do you, it's not just the basic tactics was like, oh, how do you position your guys to effectively shoot the enemy? The level of character customization is really high in a way that I was not expecting, and I'm really impressed by. And beyond that, the way the game handles actions, if you down an enemy and then execute them, that gives all of your characters an extra action they can take that turn. And so one of the more interesting tactical situations you get into is trying to figure out not just how to best kill the enemy, but how to maximize the number of turns you get or the number of actions you get that turn. So like your characters get 3 actions per turn by default. But if I have one guy execute an enemy on the ground, well, then everyone gets 4 that turn. But then if I have character X then bayonet someone, oh, he'll get an extra turn and he can do something else. And so it's all about using the character specific abilities to maximize the number of actions that any one person can get each turn. And it's really cool. My sniper, I really love her because she has abilities that can allow her to shoot multiple times in a row or shoot and then reload automatically. But then also have an ability that if if the ability doesn't work, it gets automatically refreshed. So it's like at the beginning of every game, I basically get this free ability. Like, oh, I'm going to try to kill this guy in one hit twice in a row. And if it doesn't work, that ability gets refreshed. It's like I said, the character customization is really impressive and deep in a way that I was not expecting, and that I find really, really cool and fun. And I'm enjoying this game way more than I thought I was. And this is kind of the main thing that I'm playing on the next gen consoles now is Gears Tactics.
So
Apart from that, go on.
I was just gonna say, like this, judging from the video and from what you've been saying, it is very XCOM-y, like with its own mechanics. But
yes, it's XCOM-y, but it feels like I said, it adds a lot of things on top of that, and it feels like it cuts out on the first several hours of XCOM. Whereas, like I said, with XCOM, it feels like it takes a while before you start getting interesting abilities. This starts throwing interesting abilities and a variety of actions at you from the beginning. Like it basically like skips the intro part. Like, XCOM is a lot of you trying to build up your team so that you're competitive with the aliens. This is like, nah, right from the beginning, you and them are on equal footing, figure stuff out.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Like
Yeah.
in general, like the XCOM gameplay mechanics are good enough that I'd like to see it in other games built upon itself.
Yeah. And yeah, Gears Tactics, impressive tactics game. I recommend it to anyone that likes that genre.
And yeah. If you and if it is a genre that you like it really hard, like this game looks fun. But if you ever go back to XCOM, they're the first one anyway, there's something called Long War that's worth checking out as always. So I just have to always pimp that out if I ever get the chance because it is brutal but a lot of fun.
And then I played a lot of Forza Horizon 4 on the Series X, which is, like I said, arcade racing, and it's an open world arcade racing game. And last week when I was talking about Hot Pursuit, I was complaining about open world arcade racing games. This game, it does have that one frustration of you spend a lot of time driving from point A to point B, but the physics of driving are really, really fun. And more importantly, this doesn't take place in a city like a lot of other open world racing games do. It takes place in like these rolling hills of England or something like that, someplace in like that area of the world. And so what that means, as I was playing this, I kept thinking about Back to the Future, of that line when Doc goes, roads. Where we're going, we don't need roads. Because in this game, it's open world, and really open world, you don't have to stay on the road. So when I'm trying to go from point A to point B, and I look at it and go, well, it looks like I'm going around this mountain. Fuck that. I'm going to go over the mountain. You can do that. You can drive up, you can gun it up a mountain, you can fly off of that mountain, down the hill, bounce the car like 3 times, land on the wheels, and then keep driving. And as you can see in this video, he's just driving through a pond, he's driving through bushes, he's driving through trees, and you get points for that.
Yep, he's just going straight out. He is not going on the road. He's just going straight to it.
Yep, and that makes it way more fun than just like, okay, I need to go from point A to point B. How do I drive on the road to get here? And in this game, it's like, oh, I can see point A to point B, but as the crow flies is a lot faster. I'm just gonna do that. And so yeah, driving over hills and through trees and all that has alleviated one of my previous frustrations of open world racing games, which is getting from point A to point B. This game lets you do that in a way that is way more entertaining than previous Need for Speed games have been. And like I said, the car handling is actually really, really fun. It gives you the option to tune your car and like get into that really nitty gritty detailed tuning, but you don't have to. And I really enjoy that. So yeah, Forza Horizon 4 feels like the arcade racing game that I have been missing out on since Hot Pursuit came out. So yeah.
Cool. All right. So Shall we try to hit the news? Yeah.
I mean, I feel like there have only really been a couple like big
Yeah,
news.
there's a couple big things, and we should probably hit them just simply because it would be remiss not to. So let's hit the news. This is the GameHounds news, the news, views, and commentary of the week in gaming with gamer Edie, Andrew Smith, and Nick DiNicola. And our first item is
The big thing, I guess, about Ubisoft Montreal.
Yeah, can't not. All right, so Friday, as in Friday the 13th, Twitter went nuts all of a sudden because Montreal police were reporting that there was a mass police presence, some kind of incident at the Montreal studios for Ubisoft. And there was apparently reports of a hostage situation. Well, it took about an hour. There were police everywhere, news reporters, helicopters, SWAT teams, just the whole 9 yards, paramilitary presence. Everybody was evacuated up into the roof or out of the building if they were in the lower floors. And it turns out after all of that, it was swatting. Somebody swatted the offices of Ubisoft on Friday the 13th. Not cool, guys. So the Service de Police de la Ville de Montréal, SPVM, deployed a large number of resources to answer the call. It came from an anonymous call saying that there was a hostage situation at the Saint Laurent Boulevard office building. The perimeter was quickly secured. They have confirmed that there was no threat, no actual threat. No injuries were reported, so no one was hurt. The evacuees, the whole building was evacuated either up to the roof, which is where, you were getting the helicopter views, and everybody said it was being barricaded on Twitter. And I was on Twitter at the time and saying, hey, this sort of looks like it could be a swatting situation. If it is a hostage situation, don't call your friends, because the last thing you want to do is send a text alert to somebody who's potentially hiding from a gunman. Second, this could be swatting, guys. So chill your bills and don't retweet shit that doesn't come from an actual news outlet. Sure enough, 20 minutes later, they said it's not real. It was an anonymous call. And so now an investigation has been launched, trying to find out who made the call. And trust me, the Canadian police are not fucking around. They are absolutely going to find the asshole that did that, and they're going to be in a world of hurt. So, on the off chance that anybody listening to this has any information about who swatted the offices, please call them the Info Crime Montreal which is crime stoppers for the all intents and purposes version for Montreal Police. 514-393-1133, or you can go online and report that asshole to infocrimemontreal.ca. And you can go to the English version site because, of course, they're Canadian. They put everything in English and French. So, yeah, it was a little bit dicey there for a minute or two, but it ended up being better than it actually being hostages. But not by much.
Yeah. It's one of the situations where it feels lucky that no one actually did get hurt.
Right.
Those situations have gotten people killed.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, fortunately, Canadian police are not as trigger happy as U.S. police. Let's just say they're nicer. I think that would be a nice thing. I think we can all agree that Canadian police are probably nicer than American police.
Oh, probably.
Mm-hmm. So anybody else got a next item?
Yeah. So this is just a fun one. Following the release of the Xbox Series X and the latest Call of Duty game, the leading internet providers in the UK have said that they've experienced record broadband use set a new record for broadband use. And they say it's probably because Activision updated Modern Warfare and Warzone, which costs about 65 gigabytes. Preloads of Black Ops Cold War is about 130 gigabytes. An update to Bungie to Destiny 2 is 65 gigabytes.
Jeez.
Valhalla is 60 gig, and that came out. So between all of those and Valhalla, Ubisoft has said that they experienced there seems to be twice as many players day one of Valhalla as there were for Odyssey. So between
I could
all
see that.
Helps that it's a brand new console too.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the new hotness for a new console. It's one of the reasons why I jumped in it is because it's the game that's going to show off your new console as best under the best case scenario.
Yeah. So record broadband use. It's just
I
kind
can
of
see that. Yeah.
As games get bigger and patches get bigger and all this stuff coming out.
Well, we're going to go from record high amount of users to record low amount of users. So we knew that things were bad for Marvel's Avengers. They have gotten so much worse. So in October, it was reported, and we talked about it here, that there was an 87% drop off of players in October for Marvel's Avengers on Steam. The latest numbers for PC users now are out for so far in November, 96% drop off. It said over the last weekend, there were only 1,190 players using Marvel's Avengers online. Marvel's Avengers only averaged 752 players online during November so far. 700 users average.
And I imagine the console versions are more than that, but
right,
also
they're not releasing the console version.
This kind of shows the importance of cross-gen multiplayer games because there's really no reason to buy this for PC at this point if that's going to be your user base. If it was cross-gen, you could at least combine those small pawns to create a lake at least. But now it's just like, well, the PC is a tiny little pond that's drying up.
I would call it a pond to a lake. I would call it a puddle to a pond.
Okay. Semantics aside.
700 people at any particular time on average playing that game in all the universe?
Well,
okay,
on PC, not in all the universe.
Right, yeah.
So 700 is low, but if you ever go through like the Steam charts number, like 1,000, 1,500 is what you get from most like games average, like non-multiplayer games. A lot of single-player games, that's kind of the range that you run. The fact that this game is trying to be like an in-game loot-based RPG,
it wants to be a live service game,
and that is bad for a live service game.
Like
for a normal game, that's fine.
If it was just a single-player campaign, then that'd be fine. But for a game that supposedly wants to be this thing that you go back to month after month, or week after week, it's really not.
Yeah,
no, that's bad.
And that's creating massive problems for their servers because the numbers are so low. And I think we reported this before in October that they're having massive matchmaking problems because there's nobody playing. And you could wait up to a half hour or more to get some, depending on what time of the day you're playing, you may have to wait as long as an hour to get a match because nobody's playing. So yeah, if we didn't need any more like evidence that this game is doomed for the dustbin, apparently also the remastered version of Marvel's Spider-Man that's set for the PS5. I guess at one point it had a reference to the Marvel's Avengers game, and it has been removed.
What was the reference?
It was
Rangers Tower.
Rangers Tower was in it.
Was it removed?
Yeah, it's been.
I think
removed.
they removed the A. Yeah.
Why?
don't know. I did see the headline for that.
Like
though.
that's not just a reference to the
'Cause-
Avengers
'cause,
game. That's a reference to Avengers. Like that game is filled with things like that. I found like a little plaque for Doctor Strange's thing. Doctor Strange's like a place, his not apartment,
Well,
but like
maybe that's
thing I'm
not
saying,
it.
it's insane.
Maybe
No.
that's not it, because according to
Okay,
reports,
yeah,
that the
yeah.
reference had to do with, at one time, I guess they thought that these two games were going to connect to each other, and it's been learned now that the Marvel's Avenger is apparently going to
no.
have a different version of Spider-Man,
Well,
because they
yeah, I
don't want
I
it
don't.
to connect. They
These
don't want
games,
these. They do not want. It's
they
kind
were
of like
never
when you
going
fart
to.
in an elevator. You're really not going to talk about that great fart in the elevator. If you do it, if you dealt it, you are not going to, say you
They
smelt
were
it.
never going to connect, even if Marvel Square Enix's Avengers game was a runaway wild success. These were never going to connect. Like never, ever, ever, ever.
Okay.
Well, in the game, because I'm looking it up now, the original line was, when you stand in front of the Avengers headquarters in New York, Peter Parker would say, "Avengers Tower, so cool. Too bad they're never around to use it. They're probably on the West Coast or something, probably surfing." And they
I mean-
removed those two sentences, and that's it, which is so weird. Like, that could mean anything.
Well, what that to me feels like is a joke on the fact that you're Spider-Man in an event in New York and you don't actually meet any of the other Avengers because everyone is stationed in New York. The entire MCU is like headquarters in New York, and Spider-Man is like, yeah, they're not here. Where the fuck are they? I'm dealing with like 18 different villains out here, and what are you doing? You fucking surfing on the West Coast, lazy assholes. Like that just feels like an Easter egg joke on the premise of the game.
Yeah.
I'm
Maybe.
guessing that was a hidden meaning to that, of him joining the Marvel's game. Like, maybe that was the initial.
But I also feel in the chat they said that the reference is being kept.
Okay.
But that also, I don't think that's a reference to the Avengers game. That's just a reference to the Avengers as a, concept, has a pop cultural
Working on an outdoor source
thing.
Okay,
Well,
I got
that
old
is-
news. So that's old news.
That is what was said,
Right.
not what is now.
What has been said in the last week.
Um,
But it doesn't change my original story. What I came with was that the numbers for Marvel are haven't just dropped off in October. They're continuing their fall off the cliff.
Yeah.
see,
I know that they have announced like months worth of extra content, but I'm really curious to see like if they actually keep to that.
right.
Because I remember they sold. So remember when Avengers was being promoted, they had this big exclusive where Spider-Man was going to be a PlayStation exclusive character. And that was a big deal. And people were kind of upset about that because Spider-Man is super popular. And here he is being locked behind a console. It's like, console exclusives, fuck them. But what I realized only after the game came out is he's not in the game yet. They weren't saying he's going to be console exclusive at launch. He was speculated to come out around March. So they were selling a pre-order bonus that no one would get for at least 6 months after the game came out. I am really, really curious to see if they ever actually get around to putting Spider-Man in the game.
I imagine if they sold the pre-order bonus, they'd have to. But
You would hope.
yeah. I don't know. I have to imagine. I want to kind of look into this and see why it failed. Outside of like a lackluster in game and all the bugs, like they did try to fix all that. Like, was that the only reason? My biggest issue when I started playing it was in the beta, not even like the full game, was the lack of characters. Like only 6 at launch, and with a like Avengers game, you want an ensemble. Like when you played the Marvel Alliance games, the thing that made them great was all the characters.
And that's one of the things that people found frustrating is I think their original plan was to put out a new character each month. But because they've been so busy fixing bugs and dealing with various fires, metaphorical and literal, they haven't put a new character in the game. And so it's getting to be 2 months after launch, and what should have 2 new characters in it has 0 new characters. And that is one of the frustrating things about it.
Yeah, because it wasn't really too hard to level up one character, so I imagine it would be hard to level up the rest.
Which is why I think you're seeing the drop-off increase, is because with the live service game, people, they're playing more and more, but because there's not new characters coming out, people have maxed out these characters, they've maxed out the loot, and there is no new thing coming in that you can grind out. So it's just like, well, I've maxed everything there is, there's kind of no reason left to play it. Even
Yeah,
for a live service game, there's nothing left to do.
It feels like they leveraged too much on the fact that they were an Avengers game. And that probably
Yes.
helped initially, but if your goal was an end-game loot grinder, that needed to come first before even like what titles you're using.
Yeah.
Like, I think you're right. If you could have changed your gear and customized your Tony Stark, your Hulk, like to look a different way, that would have gone a long way.
Yeah.
All right. So next item. All right, I'll pick one up.
Sorry,
Genshin
I was
Impact.
reading-
I know that you were playing Genshin Impact for a while.
Yeah.
So, big thing came out this week. The developer behind Genshin Impact, what's the name of the company? I'm looking for it. MiHoYo is the name of the company. Apparently, they had your home phone number or whatever phone number you registered with them open for everyone to see.
Okay, because you can get that game on phones. You can get it
right.
on mobile. So it
Right.
Yeah.
So as this was spotted by Vice, players have been reporting for weeks that they've been able to locate phone numbers of other players by searching their usernames on the official website via the password recovery system. So if you wanted to recover your password, or if somebody wanted your home phone number, all you had to do was go to the MiHoYo account website, hit forgot password, and then enter your username. And your email would be partially censored, but your mobile number wouldn't. It would be sitting there just for everybody to see, like, just dick waving in the air. So yeah, for many weeks, personal phone numbers for anybody who played that game, if someone else knew your username, they could get your home phone number. So as of yet, MiHoYo has not commented publicly on this massive security breach, and they have no idea. I mean, it's not clear at this point how many people have had that happen to them and have been impacted, but there are people now that are saying that the issue appears to be quietly resolved. But yeah, so if you did play Genshin Impact on your phone, be aware that for quite some time your personal phone number was sitting out available for anybody to get who wanted to look it up.
You might be getting some more spam.
Either that or stalkers, or who knows, somebody just blowing up your phone because they don't like you or whatever. You pissed somebody off. Who knows?
To rewind a bit about Spider-Man, AC Wraith says, and I guess this is, I forget where this quote comes from, but it's a quote explaining where the confusion came from. And I guess Greg Miller, he got to that moment where Spider-Man would say those lines, but then an off-screen NPC butted into the conversation and it cut off Spider-Man's dialogue and the subtitles at like just the right moment that it seemed like Spider-Man's dialogue got removed.
Got it. Okay, so it was a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got something else?
Yeah, not really, I guess news, but just kind of an interesting story. In League of Legends, it's a Riot story, go figure. There's the new character Seraphine. And if you don't know anything about League of Legends, she's kind of a pop star. And not just her face, her entire life. So a woman says that is suing Riot, or at least might sue her. She's talking to a lawyer currently. That Riot used her personal life and personal info to make the newest character. From what I initially saw this on Facebook when I was looking up, and people, if you don't read the article, it sounds kind of iffy because the character Seraphine, the way they unveiled her was they made a fake Twitter account. And they made her, she started posting stuff like, depressed day, not going to do anything, like trying to bond with people like she was a real account. And
Okay, that's happened before.
Yeah, and it wasn't announced this was a Riot thing. It was meant to be like a spoiler or kind of an Easter egg that led up to the character reveal. People quickly figured out it was Riot, and outside of this story, I just want to say it's kind of creepy when a corporation does something like this, where they try to look cool and like connect with the younger generation. Like, it feels weird to me that Riot made a character and tried to act like a real person on a Twitter account.
I don't know the full story of this, but I do know years and years ago, like 10 years ago, when the games criticism scene was like sort of slowly emerging, there was this one blog user who was genuinely like one of the main places to go for like thoughtful games criticism, for like actual thoughtful, like thematic writing about video games and that. After a year or so, people realized, or like it was revealed, this user was actually part of an ARG promotional thing for some game. I forget what it is. I forget the username. I forget what she was promoting. But the fact that this actual like popular game critic turned out to be part of a promotion. It would be kind of like if you realized, oh shit, there's no such thing as Jason Schreier. He was just a persona that we used to promote our game. It was like, wait, what? What the fuck? This person that I've been reading for a year is fake? Not just fake, but like part of an advertisement.
Yeah.
So I can imagine like it's weird when that happens. Certainly.
Yeah,
Right.
well,
Well, I
like-
mean, it's a little more involved than what you might have already gleaned. So the big reason why this woman says that she was that Seraphine is based on her is a girl named Stephanie, not Seraphine. The real girl, Stephanie, said that she at one point dated a Riot employee. And it was a little bit of a weird relationship. They had only briefly dated. She referred to this employee as a guy named John, and they met twice, but kept their interactions online for about 3 months. And after only knowing each other a really fairly short amount of time, John reportedly mentioned, and Stephanie plays League of Legends. He implied various ways. John said, "Hey, I can include aspects of you in your League of Legends self." And he got Riot illustrators to create artwork depicting Stephanie as her favorite character, Ari. And apparently he said that he could influence the KDA project, the KDA being the virtual League of Legends pop group comprising of Ari, Akali, Evelyn, and Kaisa's characters. Seraphine went on to become a member of this KDA pop group. And meanwhile, things did not go well for Stephanie and John. He was a little too weird, a little too intense. And so she backed away. And then much later on, after he'd said, "Oh yeah, I can absolutely put you into the KDA project," she sees this character that looks an awful lot like her, with a lot of aspects about her that seem to be pretty on the nose, and it would not be that crazy to think. Kate, by the way, Riot has denied everything. They said John had nothing to do with the KDA project. He hasn't worked there for a year, but still, it is kind of creepy that this creepy guy who was like making art about her in League of Legends and saying that he could do this. Now she shows up in League of Legends, or something that really looks like her shows up in League of Legends, and Riot has been accused 3 other times. Actually, think back. I think this is the 3rd time that Riot has been accused of using real life people as being a basis for other characters without their permission. So it's not like it's an unheard of thing for Riot to do.
Is that an issue?
Well, for her, she finds it incredibly creepy and invasive. Like, it makes her feel awkward and, like, grossed out by it. And, like, she has gotten, like, unrelated people, friends, just being like, hey, this character kind of reminds me of you. And, like, every personal detail that is shared or kind of explored with the character, it makes her feel gross. It makes her feel weirded out, like her privacy is now being shared.
I get that, especially in the context of like dating someone and this kind of feeling like an extension of stalking.
It's exactly what it is.
But in general though, like the idea of taking inspiration from a character, taking inspiration from a real person for a character, like,
okay,
there's nothing inherently wrong about that. Like, that kind of happens literally all the time in art across all mediums and all ages forever.
Well, she says, and I do not dismiss her experience.
So I'm wondering,
this is
like,
creepy and weird and uncomfortable. She says that she is now hates going out because someone might see her and think that she looks like Seraphim, and if somebody says something, it just is once again reinforcing that this person invaded her privacy. She said, honestly, let's see, where is it? There was a quote from her. I will look for it, but she kind of explained, and it made absolute sense that it's like, here's this person who I had to back away from because he was way too intense, and it was just felt icky. And now it's like his ickiness has now chased me, and wherever I go, I am experiencing this ickiness. Like, when people look at me, I have to wonder, are they just looking at me, or are they looking at me saying, oh, look, it's Seraphim?
So I don't know too much about that. I know that it felt like an invasion of privacy.
It's a total invasion of privacy.
As for being like taking inspiration from a way a person looks and making a character, that's one thing. And if, like, you don't have personal details alone, like, that could be like, you could have seen someone on the street and like, then it just came back to you when you were making a character and it was referenced, but maybe not even intentionally. But her story is a little different because the character of Seraphim doesn't fit well into the League of Legends world. The way they marketed her, like who she is, it doesn't work well with the game overall. But whether or not they were already working a character base like that before all this stuff happened with her and the aforementioned John, which isn't his real name, she doesn't want to like start a doxing effort against this person, so she doesn't give him the real name.
And it's not just her face; it's also things that she's done. Like, on the left here is Stephanie's own art, and then her art that's pretty similar shows up from Seraphim. Yeah, it's like, it makes you wonder about everything that you've ever done, and is it going to show up in this game? Her cat.
Yeah, there's pictures of her cats, like various poses that she's done that she shared with this person that were kind of similar. But I mean, that's one thing. So another thing she did is when she was in college, she wrote a paper. And it was, I forget the importance of the paper. It was like a final that worked with the fictional characters in the fictional world of these two nations in League of Legends. And all the characters kind of come from these two nations. It varies, but either one or the other. And she made a character and a story about one that had both. And aspects of that story that she wrote, which she shared with him, and he shared internally without asking, to the people of Riot ended up in this character's backstory. So like something she wrote herself, like ended up becoming this character. And then,
which if that doesn't like just scotch it, then Riot, this character is absolutely based on her. There, it's not like, hey, it just looks like me. It's like there's enough anecdotal evidence that you put it all together, and it's like, oh, it really is based on you, no matter what Riot says.
So it feels like it's a situation of degrees. Like in theory, it's not wrong to create a fictional character based off of someone. Like it happens all the time, both consensually and non-consensually. Like there are tons of movies that name a character Roger because the director's like, fuck you, Ebert, you gave my movie a bad review, so I'm gonna kill Roger in my next movie.
Right.
Like,
but they don't use Roger's likeness, they don't use Roger's backstory, they don't use Roger's social media pictures, they don't use Roger's pets, they don't use Roger, they don't make the character Roger. They may name it Roger, but they don't make the character so obviously you without your consent, B, your payment.
And they don't take material that you have created in the past for use in that
for creating person. That character. Right. Absolutely.
So it's not just a matter of inspiration, it's the degree to which like backstory, actual art assets and
it would be a very different thing if she was a public person or something else, but the fact that this came from a relationship which was a little stalkery just makes it so much worse.
Yeah, because he
and it wasn't like, Riot, and then of course it's Riot on top of it, who's
which makes sense that someone like that would work at Riot.
He tried to bring her in as like, hey, I have a voice acting opportunity that you might like, and she turned it down. And then he was like, listen, there's this surprise I'm going to show you on September 19th, which is your birthday. I have a surprise to show you, which was a day that they officially announced the character was on her birthday. So like he was not only saying that he could get her likeness and her to like work on this character, it's heavily implied that, but like he knew information about the character before she released. Like, hey, this is her release date. I have a surprise for you on your birthday. Stuff like that. And there's arguments to be made that, hey, this was all in development before they talked. Like, again, he's been gone for a year. So you don't necessarily know how much is like lines up, which I'm sure they'll fight in court for. But there is enough that you can make a case. It's not some girl being like, there was an article about a guy who sued a company who like made articles where like, hey, this hipster person looks like me and I'm offended. And he tried to get it taken down. And they're like, no, this was generic hipster when we made it. And you just fit that
you look
bill.
like generic hipster.
Yeah, like the life we described here was completely fictional that we were just making up based off tropes. And you read that and you were like, that's me.
And that's why I think it's important that it seems that this goes beyond just her appearance. Because like, you could say, oh, here's this girl I like and I modeled the character after her.
Pink hair, blue eyes, glasses, like that could be anyone on Twitter. But
so she writes, it may sound like fun at first to have a league champion that looks like you, but I don't think I've even opened League, let alone played a game since it came out. One silver lining, I haven't gotten demoted in a while. I felt really grossed out about it to the point that I can't play any of my favorite video games. Besides that, it's been kind of horrid to have a league champion who looks like you, has so many of your characteristics, and has a name that's almost identical to yours. People I've never met send her to me online and point out the similarities. There's already immense amounts of porn of her. I see people arguing about her near daily. Take a wild guess to whether I side with the people who think it's kind of creepy or the people who insist it's a small, whatever. Anyway, and I do kind of agree that she's an out-of-place character of the lore of the game. It does suck to see your features torn apart on a massive scale every time you open your Twitter feed. Even worse then all that has been the wondering about whether or not she's based off me. I waited a while to post anything, partially because I wanted a lawyer first, but also because it's terrifying to wonder if this happened, but have no way to conclusively prove it. I actually spent a while with her account's tweet notifications on, worrying about what personal detail or similarity would be next. It was horrible to guess what part of her appearance could match mine next, or what cutesy quirks she might have, when it seemed like every tweet and picture being released only contained more and more similarities.
So, I mean, like, I think the biggest issue is not knowing. Like, she goes to court and they bust out all this documentation, which they should have. And it should be pretty evident, hey, no, these were all made before your relationship, or all made after your relationship when he wasn't on the team. They can make a case for it. And I think she'll be happy knowing that, okay, this wasn't me. It was just creepy, like a creepy coincidence. But I kind of agree that she does have a case. She does have a case to push forward, and enough evidence that she should get those answers if she wants it.
Yep, absolutely. So anyway, that was a way longer conversation than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
It's kind of an in-depth one, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it does factor into the degrees of like what's okay. Like, you know, I know artists do it all the time where they find someone and like, I'm gonna do someone based on you. Use Google Images to like find a character, a face that you like, and be like, okay, I want to make a character based on that person. But you know, as with everything in life, the difference between what's okay and what's not is all a matter of degrees and gray, and how far in one direction do you go another. And this is one where it's swung so far in another direction that something that was previously okay and fine has become not okay and significantly creepy, and as we'll see, maybe
terrifying.
arguably
I can't imagine what it would be like that. Imagine having a character that you gave no permission, even if it was just physical, a character you gave no permission to, based on you, and then people turning it into porn.
Fair, but there are some people
I say there is a very, very good friend of mine that, well, I'm going to say very, very good. It's a friend of mine that I know that used to be at Xbox, and someone once posted a photo of a pinup model that looked a lot like her in a black bustier. 20 years later, that the woman goes for a job she really needs and she really, really wants, and she's desperate for, and it is the perfect job for her. And they say, yeah, we're not going to take you because you've done adult pinup photos. And she's like, no, I haven't. Well, what's this post? Oh, it's not me. It's somebody from the 1970s that someone posted to my Twitter feed saying, hey, it looks like you. And she didn't get the job because they didn't want to take a chance. They didn't want to have anybody else go on and have her working there with children and then come up with, working on a games and a family-friendly games, and then come up with this and saying, look, I'll say it's Trixie 360.
I'll also say, like,
Trixie 360 got passed over for a job for something that looked like her, that somebody said only, hey, it looks like you.
And that specific situation
shit is real for girls. This shit is way more real for girls than it is for boys.
Oh yeah, and I just want to say, in that specific situation, like the hiring director, that's a terrible reason.
It's a terrible reason, but it's understandable. It's reasonable to say.
No, it's not reasonable or understandable. It's a fucking stupid decision that is based on like nothing that has to do with the character of the person. Like it's
but it's not about the character of the person. It has to do with they were going to be hiring her for a job that had to do with family-friendly games, and then there's this thing online that says that this might be her. Ha ha ha! Isn't this funny? And it has come back to bite her. And to this day, it's a terrifying thought that something not you but looks like you could be used against you to keep you away from getting a job.
Yeah, that does suck.
And you think this girl would not have a hard time getting a job when there's Seraphim porn out there that looks an awful lot like her, And
I hope
people
not.
and lots of people sending her stuff online saying, hey, this looks a lot like you. That's all it takes. Hey, this looks a lot like you. That's all it took for Trixie 360 to be passed over for a job.
I think that, I mean, that case is fucked up, but like,
the whole thing is all fucked up.
I don't know if you can prevent that. Like, again, this pinup was made in the 70s. I'm not sure how old she is, but I doubt she was even, like, you can't control that. It wasn't even like, that was a real person who did that shot.
Right.
Like, you can't control that.
Right. No, you can't control that. But it was that tweet that connects the two. And it was linked. And then once that happened, the company couldn't take the risk that someone else wouldn't find that and be offended. And then they would have to be put in the defensive position of being able to say, that's not her. Somebody said it looked like her. They didn't ever want to have that conversation about connecting porn to their game company. And it was safer for them not to hire her and hire somebody else who didn't have any connection to porn when they did their deep dive on their, when you're getting a job, it's that easy to be passed over. So yeah. Anyway, have we gone? No, it's a 2 hour, 25 minutes. Still, we should probably log. I still have tons of stuff to talk about, but
really?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Carrying the show today.
I didn't think there was like much else big news.
Well, there's Black Friday events coming up.
Okay. Yeah, we can talk about that next week.
We can talk about that next week. And also the DMCAs that are being
with Twitch.
With Twitch and YouTube for game sounds.
Mm-hmm.
That is a new thing. Some guy decided to stream, I think it was Fortnite, and he did his own sound effects while he was playing. Pew, pew, pew. Pew, pew. Oh, he did all of his own, like.
That's terrible.
And it was hilarious. But, I mean, that's what happens when you can't play the game sounds while you're actually streaming. Yeah. So yeah, a bunch of DMCAs are being shed, but we'll talk about that next week. That's not going to happen. They're going to change between now and next week. All right. So anything else we want to talk about before we shut down this show? No? Okay, then. Let's close this out. Wait, and let's close this out. You've been listening to GameHounds, episode 571. We recorded this on Sunday, November 15th, 2020. I've been Edie Sellers. With me has been Nick DiNicola and Andrew Smith. If you ever want to get a hold of us, please do. You can get a hold of us by emailing gamehounds@gmail.com, or you can also go to our website. Or sorry, that's our website, gamehounds@gmail.com. You can email us at gamehounds@gmail.net. Gamehounds. Wow. All right. Gamehounds.net is the website. Gamehounds@gmail.com is the email. We record this show live on Sundays at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on Spreaker. That's speaker with an R, Spreaker.com. You can listen to the audio there. Or if you feel like jumping over and watching us do the show with video included, we do this on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitch. Facebook and Twitch, we are at The GameHounds, and on YouTube, we are on GameHounds Vids, as in videos, VIDS. Check us out. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and do hit the notification bell. But like this video, hit the thumbs up button. I see people in this chat room and no thumbs up. Come on, people. Thumbs up this thing. It really does make a difference. You can also go and see us or listen to us after the fact on iHeartRadio, on iTunes, and on Spreaker. Just download the show and listen to us there. And I believe we're also on Alexa and Google devices. All you have to do is say "Play GameHounds Podcast," and it will be right in the room with you. anything else? Oh, also, if you like the show, even if you don't like the show, still do it. We do ask $1 a month. That's all we ask to help support the video stream. It pays for the service that allows us to stream this show every week. $1 a month is all we ask here. And thank you so much to all of our patrons. You can find us at patreon.com/GameHounds. Nick, thank you for being here. Andrew, thank you for being here. And AC Wraith, if you ever have anything that you had a question about, you wanted to see the backstory or the sources, we've got our link page. AC Wraith provides all the links in the comments in YouTube, in Facebook, in Twitch, and on Spreaker. Thank you so much, AC Wraith. We'll talk to you all next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Stay safe and wear your freaking masks. All right, we're out. We're still on YouTube.
Corey Wallace says for $14, we'll get Nick a haircut. What's wrong with my hair? I don't need a haircut. My hair's fine. Fuck you, Corey.
Should we run a Patreon for your haircut?
We'll make it
Actually,
a stretch
I
goal.
mean,
Sure, if I get a haircut for free, I'm not going to complain about that.
If you want to go get a
fuck you.
haircut, you probably should, because they're about to shut us down even further again.
Yeah,
are you
true.
Alameda County? Yeah, you're Alameda County,
Alameda.
aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. They just shut down our outdoor or our indoor dining completely as of Friday. Actually, I think as of Tuesday. They reduced it as of Friday, and then they just said, "Yep, we're going to shut down all the way." So our indoor dining is shut down, and our gyms are shut down, and amusement centers like bowling alleys, any indoor activities, fun, are all shut down.
Because I just found out the other day that there are theaters nearby me that are open again. Like the AMC in Newark and the Cinemark in Hayward.
Yes,
are open.
They're open for. I believe they were at 25% capacity. If you want to go see a movie, I would do it soon, because I have a feeling before the week is out, they're going to be shutting down movie theaters, and they're going to be shutting down hair salons and nail salons. So if you need to get your haircut, go get your haircut now, because you might not be able to until middle of next year, when the surge is over, when it warms up again. And
in the chat, AC Wraith said that I guess the Discord is private. The GameHounds server on Discord.
Yeah. We haven't really made it public yet, I don't think, or Edie hasn't.
DJ Phil Collins says, "Gus, glad Nick's not blurry anymore." Yeah, you're.
I don't know why. I did nothing different.
All right. Yeah, much less a gray block.
He has more than...
good deal on Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Where'd you get that? Granted, I buy everything digital anyway, because fuck discs. Sorry, I am not that way. Fuck discs.
I will say, one of the first things I did with the Series X, when I loaded it up, I took one of my HD DVDs and put it in there, and it fucking worked.
Okay, good.
Unlike the PS Pro, which doesn't take HD DVDs and really pissed me off, the Series X and the PlayStation 5 both accept the Ultra HD Blu-ray discs, and I am glad, because now I can watch Hereditary in like super crystal clear resolution, and I can see those decapitations very pretty.
Brian Stevens said it's the blue shirt. And Corey Wallace got his deal at Walmart. Yeah, I mean, I'll just shoot it out here for you guys, just so you know. Both Walmart and Best Buy have their Black Friday deals out, but Walmart, when they're getting very smart. Because when they did the release of the PlayStation 5 on launch day, they actually announced the times that they would be pulsing. By the way, the PlayStation 5 shut down the Walmart site at midnight Eastern time, but they announced when they were going to pulse the new stock on launch day, which was very, very nice. But of course, it created those particular hours were impossible to use the Walmart site. So upside downside. But Walmart's has announced that they're going to be doing 3 Black Friday events in November. There was one on November 4th. They did another one November 11th, and they're doing another one on November 25th. The events are going to start online, and then they're going to move that a couple of days later into the physical stores. So if you want the best deals, Walmart is going to be the one, and you want to check on the 25th because that's when their next event is. And they'll be restocking some of the online stuff. So periodically check if something seems like it's out of date. And yeah, I ended up buying no, I did that for Amazon Prime Day. I actually bought. Changed my life, baby. Changed my life. You can't really see it because it's
living the high life, owning AirPods.
I bought the AirPods. I resisted for a very long time. They're great. I absolutely love them. They're like butter. They are like butter to use.
Butter in your ears. I just love putting butter in my ears.
Creamy and warm and
it clears it out.
Just absolutely fantastic.
You just tilt your head and let it sink all the way into your brain. And just make it all. You marinate.
Everything's better with butter.
Yeah.
With that, I have to head out.
Yeah. Yes, please do. Hey, I sent you a text. So please answer that text for me.
I did.
Okay, good. Yes. Lighting will be on the way shortly.
That's what I was asking.
And and I'm gonna order 2, one for me as well, because my normal light died, and now I have this LED thing that's great, except it's not ideal. It is definitely not the ideal way to light me, because now I look like I'm gonna be telling spooky stories.
If I get proper lighting, I am just going to scare people away.
No, you're not. Because right now you just look like you're like being lit by your television. All you need is a beer and a chicken pot pie, and you will be a absolute trope.
Oh no, sorry.
I've always preferred halogen lamps because they're relatively small and thin. You stick them in a corner and they're powerful enough to just light the whole room like really easily.
Yeah, but they don't light the room well. It looks like, Yeah,
they do. This is one.
I know. You can tell.
Yeah. I am the best lit motherfucker in this show. Look at that. Look at you.
It hurts, Edie. It's so bright.
Edie, you're living in night. Someone is going to come out of the darkness and take you away. You are like 2 seconds away from being killed by a ghost in a horror movie.
Possible. Well, I'm going to get myself a light as well. So at least I'm not going to be quite so poorly lit. And then you're not going to be nearly as blue as CRT blue. And Nick, maybe I should just get you one. Everyone gets one for Christmas.
No one wants to see this. It works.
Ryan Stevenson says thanks for the show. No, Ryan, thank you for showing up for the show. I appreciated it.
We don't know why you're here, but we appreciate it.
Yeah. And Ryan Stevenson says that butter in your ears is perfect for the potatoes in your ear.
See, right there's still the VTuber option. Just put anime versions of ourselves.
You must understand. It's not an option. It is something we're going to do at random with no warning. I will learn how to use that, and I will share it with you at some point.
All right, gentlemen, have a great night. And everybody watching, thank you so much for being here and spending 2 hours and 38 minutes of your precious existence with us, as you have been every week. I don't say it enough. We are going on to our 14th year doing this in February. It's crazy to me to think that that's the case. And there are a lot of you that have been with us, if not the whole time, very close to that. Thank you for staying with us all these years. I do consider you my friends, and you are super important. And I I do not take the fact that we have spent so many years together for granted. So thank you for being here once again, and tell more people to join us so that they can have the next 14 years and you can see me go completely gray instead of just partially gray as I am now.
Same.
Yeah.
So.
You
And I
watch
mean,
Andrew go old instead of just me now.
It's been exhausting 14 years on this show. I've been here since the start.
Yes. I used to be such a young man. Oh,
You alone with your cats and you cranky. We're gonna have some soup
Yes.
for dinner.
No. His cats bring in the most views. So more cats.
That's true. They are the
Yeah.
most popular thing on the show. All right, everybody. Yep, Brian Stevens in 12 years. Yeah, a lot of you are like, double digiters in the amount of years that you've been listening to us. And that's crazy to me that you would do that. Thank you.
You're all
So.
going to be hitting puberty soon.
wow.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.